Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League Positivity Edition. Yes, you may see League of Legends, the subreddit, crashing out hard after this past weekend, but here on Hotline League, we've got good positive vibes going, and it's the law for this Hotline League. Only positive vibes, because I'm a Riot Games shill, according to people from last week's episode, where I suggested that perhaps Hextech chests are not a human right. All right, first off, let me go ahead and introduce my co-host for the evening. It's none other than Cubby. Cubby, how's it going?
Doing well. Excited to have the show and excited to be in my normal setup. I got internet back 9 minutes ago. So that was honestly really good. I like my laptop here. It was like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to get my backup audio set up. But no, we're good to go. And yeah, excited to have another good episode.
Yeah. Is there any particular thing that you did today that you would like to shout out by any chance? Or should I do the shout outs? Yeah.
I mean, you could do the shout out. I spent the last couple days, I helped my girlfriend move. And then we also went out to dinner because it is her birthday today. And she also just so happens to be the community manager here. So happy birthday to Angie/Numi. And confirmed that Travis actually just Nepo hires people.
Yeah, well,
she worked for you before I worked for you, and we were dating before then. But you know,
I will say that this is like a bit of an HR violation, so we're gonna have to figure some stuff out. But
it was reported before.
Yeah. A little worried, but whatever. Happy birthday to Angie, aka Numi, our community manager. And it's great that she's decided to spend her day working on the holiday and her birthday, both President's Day and a holiday, and both President's Day and her birthday, and she has decided to spend her evening working for TGI, and that's the commitment we expect from all of our staff members here at TGI. All right, speaking of people who are losing their mustache soon, it's Kangas. Kangas, welcome as our guest to the show.
We weren't even talking about mustaches, right? I thought you were going to segue me to say talking about people committed, because I was at K Barbecue. Actually, first I was helping somebody else move, and then I get a message from Cubby saying, "Hey, can you come on Hotline League?" I was like, "I got K Barbecue, but I will leave early just to make sure I got here in time." And god damn it, I was on time and Cubby wasn't. So that's how committed I am, and I don't even work for you, Travis. So
yeah, I appreciate that. I would not have left K Barbecue to host Hotline League. So I respect.
Well, I heard it was the positivity episode, so I was like, all right, I'm down to be a part of the positivity episode.
It's true. I don't know if Cubby told you this, but I messaged Cubby. What did I message Cubby? I said, early this afternoon, I said, "You want to invite Kangas? We need positivity for this really negative time." And he said, "Will do. Kangas is helping someone move, so he's interested, but not sure if he'll get back in time." I said, "We could hold the spot for him. If he gets back late, he could just join if he's down."
Well, hey, I fulfilled all the requirements. I got back on time. I still had amazing K Barbecue, so I'm happy. It's been a good night so far.
I'm glad. Are you willing to? You don't have to, because I don't want to dox your favorite K Barbecue place if you go here often. But would you be willing to disclose the K Barbecue location? Because I'm always trying to see where everybody likes to go.
Okay, this is gonna out myself in a different way. I never pay attention to the name of the K Barbecue place. I just go wherever my friends say let's go, and then I'm like, sweet, and then I just end up at locations. I'm like, oh, I was here 2 years ago, and I don't even remember.
When I want all you can eat, I go to Road to Seoul, and whenever I want,
I think that's where I was actually. Now that you say that, I'm pretty sure that was the name on the sign.
There's one on Western, and there's one on Vermont. So you were maybe on one of those at one of those two.
Whatever the K-Town one was, unless they're both in K-Town, in which case
they're both in K-Town because they're barbecue places. But yeah, regardless, yeah. Was there a parking lot in the back that you kind of walk through a hall to get to the front?
Yes, there's two parking lots, one in the back, one in the front.
Yes,
and we went through the hallway one. Yeah,
I believe that is the one on Western. So I go there.
Okay, cool. Also, my address is 5300. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. It's just. Hey, listen, with the size of esports, we have to, that's one thing I've been maybe our audience is smaller, but now I'm less worried about crazy people.
Well, hey, shout out to you, by the way, because I never really think about that stuff, but there was one time that I posted that I got a gift shipped to me from Konami for a show I did. And my address was just on the package, and Travis DMs me on Twitter you realize you just doxed yourself, right? I was like, oh shit. So you're a real one. You do pay attention to what other people do that.
being around this long, you have like I have just gotten accustomed to the like, oh, I'm going to open a box on stream.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to like take a Sharpie on this or something. You know, like so you just get used to being afraid of doxing yourself. So, regardless, great to have you on for the positivity episode. How's your week been?
Happy to be here. It's been a fun week. We had a lot of fun games this past weekend. Some snoozers, like it was kind of a shutout. We'll talk about that later, I'm assuming. But it was so fun to be on the show and see the first time that the two different conferences interacted. And otherwise, yeah, it was just a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! And League of Legends stuff because I'm actually going to do a team tournament next month during the off season when
tournament?
like the first stand's happening. There's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Team tournament in Vegas that I'm preparing for. So I'm shuffling my cards as we speak. A new Blue Eyes structure that came out. Shout out to all the Blue Eyes fans out there. Wait, where is he? Where is he? There he is. The boy, the GOAT right there. Blue Eyes White Dragon, the OG.
Out of curiosity, what's the format for a team tournament? Yeah.
You have two teammates, so three of you go, and usually a duel is a best 2 out of 3. In this case, you keep rotating who you're against. So I see my opponents and their decks. We all sit across from each other, and we each get to duel each other one time. And I get to see what my next opponent is going to be playing, and also teammates get to talk to each other. So we can coach each other on certain matchups if we're better at it. Or if I beat my opponent fast, I can now really just pay attention to what my teammates are doing and kind of help them out.
Okay.
So that's the format.
Back when I was in college, Hearthstone was a really big game for us when we founded our esports program because they would stream us on the main Hearthstone channel. Cool. And like it was like a team of 3, and you played the same deck. So that's a little bit different, which is interesting. And they did it where like you had to, once you won with one of your decks, you couldn't play it, and it was the first to 3. It was a fun. Format,
that's fun.
Actually. Yeah, it was a really fun format.
That sounds cool. Yeah.
I've been trying to think of I've been considering doing something with some friends in the Magic space recently, and we were trying. Everybody does Commander in Magic, but we were thinking about the idea of it would be kind of cool to do like a 2HG tournament. I don't know if you're familiar with 2HG. It's two-headed giant Kangas. So it's 2v2 where you and your teammate take your turns together, and you have separate decks, but you build them from like the same pool of cards. So you open all the packs and then you build 2 separate decks, and then you like move through turns together, taking different actions. You have different like mana and all that stuff, but it's pretty cool. I feel like there's a good
that sounds fun
opportunity there for like content. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I'm glad you had a good time. You were asking me before the start of the show what I did last weekend, and I said let's wait for the start of the show because it was kind of fun. I was at a wedding for a good friend.
Yeah, you spoke.
Yeah.
Yes. And I gave a speech, which was really fun. Did not realize at the time that I was the only non-family member giving a speech. There were only 4 speeches, and I went after the cousin, but before the 2 parents gave theirs. And I feel very, very proud. Everybody told me it was a 10 out of 10 speech. People were coming up, all the family members were coming up to talk to me about it. It was about the book club that I'm running, and the Brandon Sanderson book club, and how both the bride and groom failed to read the book in time, but we're very supportive of each other in the process. And it was very fun to like. I started the speech with because he was like, it's so funny. No one's gonna know who you are other than like the couple of friends, because I like none of the family had any context for me or anything like that. So I start the speech with like, hey everyone, my name is Travis. I don't know any of you, and except for the people at that table, and you probably don't know me at all unless you follow League of Legends competitive esports, in which I'm a content creator and personality. And it was so funny and unhinged. I'm still glowing from how successful it went. It felt really good. So
did you
Great
the
start.
person that got married, would I have met them at the Magic group? Because I saw some familiar faces.
Yes,
in one of the
yes.
photos you put. Okay, okay.
Yes,
Then congrats to them. Yeah, that's really cool.
If you look at I think you're in the Magic Discord that I have. I posted a picture in the general chat. You'll have to scroll back beyond everyone's reactions to the Final Fantasy stuff that came out, but
I saw
of
that.
who it was. So
that's cool. Yeah, that's really special. I've never gotten the privilege to do that. My 2 best buddies had brothers, so I never got to speak at their weddings, but that's really cool.
Yeah, it was.
Also, shout out to any
really
buddy from the wedding here in chat right now. You a real one for subbing to the channel.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't shout out NZXT or PrizePicks, our sponsors for Hotline League, during the speech, but maybe I should have, because how great they are. Of course, we'll be talking about them more later in the episode. Regardless, we should talk about what news and what calls we're looking for. So one, Somebody last week, some smart aleck, if people still use that term, was commenting, and they said, Travis, this is a great show. Have you considered maybe ever talking about the games that take place in the LTA North during the show? As always, and please, if you see somebody saying that comment in the YouTube comments, we would love to get calls about the games. Feel free to call in with your calls about the games. When you hear an episode and you're like, wow, they only took like 1 or 2 callers, that's often because Cubby's like scouring the list of calls, and that was the one thing he was able to find. So folks, please share those takes. How can they do that, Cubby?
Go to discord.gg/Travis. Join. We have pleb topics and subtopics. Whatever your take is, doesn't matter. But if you're a sub, you know, it's a little bit less active in there, and it's pretty active tonight, which is great, actually. We already have some really good takes pulled, but still have room for more. So if you want to have your take, join me, Travis, and Kangas on broadcast. I don't know why I said on broadcast. I guess old habits die hard.
On this broadcast, yes.
Yeah, at Covey. That way I can see it. And then I'll drag you into the waiting room. We did have one take where, like last week, I wanted to grab them. I'm like, hey, you got to join the Discord so I can drag you into the waiting room. That way, like, we know that you're around and are available to, you know, give the take, and we can keep the show moving. So we do ask that you hang out in the Discord, which I know that, you know, a lot of people have friends. You can kind of go in and out, but we still have room for more takes. And depending on how the show goes, like, we have a couple contradicting takes as well. So we might actually get callers that give 2 sides today, which is great. I know that there's a lot of discussion on UmTi at the moment going on in there. So we have already one call pulled for that. Maybe we pull another one, as that seems to be one of the hotter topics. Besides that, Travis, what topics are you interested in besides just the games this week? Because we did have a couple other topics that might be interesting to talk about.
Yeah, so if you look at the subreddit, it was basically crashing out all weekend on format bad, John Needham bad, everyone bad, because the we were one Team Liquid poor play away from just having it be like an 8-0 weekend for LTA North. So while again we're trying to keep the positive vibes going on the show, I acknowledge that we will need to discuss some of the negative sentiment that is within the community right now. I just like I think I've been getting burned out on just everything being so negative in the space, so that's why I'm half joking about trying to keep things positive in this episode. But yeah, we do need to discuss some of that stuff. But the other thing that was pretty big news and kind of got overshadowed over the weekend by the negativity was that Doublelift, I guess it was reported, and then he's like talked about on a stream, will be forming a team that will be attempting to qualify for the big tier 2 stuff that's happening in North America. And he's joined by a bunch of old friends. Cubby, you want to let people know who those 4 folks are?
Yeah, so top to bottom it'd be everyone's favorite TF Blade, and then Spica, Pobelter, Doublelift, and Biofrost.
Yeah. So a lot of familiar faces. Obviously, the TF Blade thing is like a pretty big conversation. So, but I think, you know, it's pretty clear that this is inspired by Los Ratones. I actually did a call with him talking about that and some other stuff earlier, or at the end of last week, and we were trying to coordinate on if I could do an interview with him before things started happening. Unfortunately, I'm leaving tomorrow early in the morning to fly to Salt Lake to go hang out with Brandon Sanderson's company, which will be really fun. No content coming from that, but some fun conversations about maybe doing things in the future together. And then also flying from there to Chicago for the weekend for MagicCon Chicago. So shout out if you're going to be in Chicago. Regardless, I won't be able to do an interview with him until I'm back. So we'll probably try to do something next week around that. But it'll be really cool to chat with him, because I think a lot of this is. It's funny. I had just been talking to Kobe at home about this. You know, the week before this got announced, basically he was saying, you know, I wish we had something like what's happening over in Europe. And sure enough, Peter was planning it. So pretty cool to see. We'll definitely take some calls about that. Anything else that's happened in the last week, guys, that I'm forgetting? I don't think so. I think that's like most of the big news. I'm like looking at the subreddit chat. You can let us know if there's something that we forgot, or if we did forget and somebody has something they want to call in about. It's fine. I know there's some conversations about Fearless and viewership and all sorts of stuff. So we will dive into that over the course of the show. And as Kevin says, we already have some callers lined up. But Cloud9 says Hextech Chess. It's a good idea.
Not again, please.
Maybe we
That
should do
didn't
that.
happen.
Yeah.
No.
All right, first caller, Travis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can get through hopefully a couple bonus ones today. We can keep things moving. So
Yeah.
it
We'll
seems
try to
be
move
pretty
quickly
busy.
through the calls because there's a lot of
a lot of
stuff,
good topics.
Yeah. No more 25-minute long Hextech Chess call or 30 minutes, however long that last one was. We got Rogaine St. Vicious, too. Thank you for the Prime. Great name. And a name that is perhaps related to some of the conversations we were having, I believe, before the start of the show. Joshua Lippelman over on YouTube became a member and then gifted a membership, which I very much appreciate. Thank you. Manly Muppet with the Prime. People are very generous with their subs tonight, which is quite generous, or quite nice of all of you to be so generous. We've got Jordo on the show. Jordo, where are you calling from?
Calling from Berkeley, California.
Berkeley, California. And as this is the positivity episode, what is the positive, exciting, happy take that you're going to be sharing with us tonight?
My happy take is that I think John Needham will resign within the next 12 months because of the ongoing exacerbating LTA disaster. Or that was the original take, at least.
And this is a positive take because you think that it would be good if he resigned.
That's how I felt when I wrote this about 12 hours ago. I think I've mellowed out a bit.
You've been marinating on it. Wow.
I mean,
you mellowed out. Okay, so now you don't believe the take that you're calling it with?
Sorry, what was that, Kangas?
Well, I don't think I said anything. Was that you, Travis, that said something?
I said you don't believe the take that you're calling in with anymore?
I think I changed my mind, at least in terms of predicting that he'll resign.
Okay.
I think I'm just angry.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and elaborate on all this stuff?
Okay, well, I guess there are 2 points. One, I think obviously the responsibility for the LTA decision lies with Needham. He's the president of publishing and esports for Riot globally. It seems like the LTA decision probably either came from him or at least he's responsible for it. And then the second point is that I think LTA is and will be a disaster. Obviously, the regions aren't evenly matched, as this weekend showed. And almost worse is ditching two beloved brands, the CBLOL and the LCS. I've been an LCS fan since 2012. So, I mean, I just think that's an objectively bad decision.
Well,
I guess the reason... Go ahead.
No, go for it.
The reason I've soured on the take is that, he's the president of publishing and esports for Riot globally. So that's Valorant, that's, Riot Korea, that's all this other stuff. And some of that stuff is doing well. So maybe the death of the league that I love, the LCS, is just not enough to force a resignation. Like maybe it's overweighed by successes in other areas, but I think Jordo, I'm just sad.
There was another layer to your take as well.
Yeah, I mean, we can get into that if you want. It's up to you, Cubby.
Well, why don't you just sort of lay it out and then we can...
you don't have to get into
we can go back to it later.
Yeah, there was another reason like why I don't know, we ended up kind of taking this.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned it, so I'll bring it up. I mean, yeah, I basically posted as much. It was even actually more impulsive than predicting he'll resign in 12 months. It was calling for his resignation on the subreddit. And I was basically permanently banned from the subreddit for making 2 posts calling for the resignation that both got a lot of upvotes in like the 5 or 10 minutes that they were up. The first time, the reason from the mods was that the live thread was still up and I should put it in there. And they told me to repost it once the live thread was down. So I did. And then that got removed without any reason. And then I made a 3rd post saying the mods are taking down posts calling for the resignation of Needham or having a discussion or, expressing frustration about what I see as a big blow to the LCS, which I've loved for over a decade. And then I got permanently banned for making that post about the mods.
Yeah, you're not allowed to ever... One thing is very true is that you are not allowed to talk about any of the moderation on the subreddit or they get angry. I think that, to be fair, I think that is like a frequent thing on subreddits, is that they don't want you making threads that are about the mods and whether or not that's a good idea or not. It's just, I think it's easy for stuff to spiral into like a meta conversation. But yeah, I mean, I do think it is strange that you're not allowed to even have the discussion about your dissatisfaction with the leadership on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I don't have any animosity towards the mods, and I bet it's like a pretty hard, I won't call it a job because they don't get paid, but like a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So it might just be a mistake. It might be like one person told me to repost it after the live thread went down. Another person saw it and just saw it as kind of like hate mongering or whatever, and they hadn't chatted, So no animosity towards the mods, but it feels like we should be able to talk about what's happening in the LCS when it looks bad.
Yeah, I do think this has been
censored.
I just maybe a good way to pin the conversation on the Reddit stuff, because I don't want to like go on it forever, is it has always been an issue as long as I can remember it, for my entire 13 years of doing this, that like the only place that you can have meaningful discussions about this type of thing or anything really is the League of Legends subreddit, that there are not other places in the West that are good community positions. I think over time I've worried less about my content getting there, because people will talk about stuff or consume the content on YouTube regardless, but it is rather aggravating that is like a rule set. So I don't know, Cubby, I know that you were interested in pulling this partially for that, so I don't know if you want to chime in there.
I mean, I think that Raz brings up a good point. Like, isn't it just witch hunting? But the way that the mods flagged it, because Jordo did at least share proof on his end, which we won't show to dox his username, but like the way they cited it as esports discussion and not witch hunting. If they actually like said witch hunting, I mean, I don't think that the threads that you wrote necessarily were that, but the inconsistency of the mods has been an issue as a longtime fan of League, and just given how important Reddit has been to League, that I've not been thrilled about for a long time, and I think that many fans in this chat would feel the same way, as it usually isn't consistent.
Well, I want to get back to the initial point from the caller. So calling for a resignation is one thing, but do you think it's possible, realistically, and would you even want to revert the decision and try and go back? Because at this point, in my perspective, the decision's been made. LTA is here now. I think it would be moving mountains to go back in any case. So like, what do you think? There's a solution, or are you just trying to like vent out frustration?
A little of both. I think we should actually go back. I mean, maybe not in like structure. I think it'd be cool to have an America's tournament between the LCS and the CBLOL, but like, why ditch the brands? I think that should be reneged on. Also, to Raz's point, I have a lot of respect for Raz. I think he's great. It's not witch hunting if like he's the president of Riot. Like, you can't, if you have a problem with the president of your country, or the governor of your state, or the mayor of your town, have it like raising criticisms that are directed at them as the person in power is not a witch hunt. Anyway, you wanted to move past that, Kangas, so I'll move past it. But I wanted to say that just briefly. Like, we have to be able to talk about the people in control of the thing that we care about. And I tried not to make it a personal attack. I just said he should resign. But going back to the other point, yeah, I think they should go back to the old brands. And if they want to have an America's tournament, I think that could be a good thing. But I just don't understand when you're two brands. I mean, maybe CBLOL was doing well. When LCS isn't doing well, why rebrand it? Like, that's just going to accelerate the decline.
Think that, I mean, CBLOL like was doing well, right? So we can add that. I think that this is like a greater discussion. I'm trying to think of, I think that rebranding in esports is a bit of a problem and done too much. And I think that there are a few instances where rebrands were very much justified. One being EU LCS to LEC. Yep. I think that's the one that comes to mind. They hired a company that rebranded the Premier League, if memory serves correct. And they did a killer job, right? I even think that rebranding the LCS when franchising kicked in, just kind of adding some new colors, some new logos, and making it a little bit different, very justified, right? That was a monumental turning point for the league. and having something be a little bit different with just this whole new league setup instead of promotion relegation. You have franchise partners. I'm sure that there was a lot of money flowing back then. They wanted something to look good. I think that was completely justified, right? This one for me, again, we set up here and said, hey, LCS, CBLOL, Americas, that's fine, right? Don't change it. And there can be some headaches. I think that I also think that like one of the issues for me is when they did the rebrand this time around, there wasn't like a ginormous marketing push behind it to really make everyone aware that there was a rebrand. I think that you ask everyone about the format and what it is for this year, it's like there aren't clear and concise answers, right? Like Travis and I could sit up here and be like I don't think I can nail the format for all 3 splits. I feel relatively confident, but it's kind of tough and difficult. And I think throughout the year they can do a better job of educating, but also like when you don't see a lot of it, that isn't always the people like behind Riot. Sometimes that's Riot deciding, hey, how much money can we actually put behind this? And like, what are we going to have as a budget for actually marketing and pushing this out, right? So for me, that's more of the issue is when you rebrand, you need to do a giant campaign to really net awareness because it's not LCS anymore. It's something different. And I know, like, Travis, you have a ton of connections to folks, long time in esports. Like, you've said multiple times, you talk to folks like, oh, it's LTA now? I literally had someone ping me this week who ran a league that I used to compete in Ohio with. And he's like, I haven't talked to him for 4 years. He's like, hey, I saw you run LPL English. Like, that's awesome. Keep up the good work. I think you're doing great. And I was like, yeah, like I'm mostly like covering LTA. And he's like, what's that? It was like, it's what LCS was, right? It's like, oh, you do need to have a big like awareness campaign around the fact that it's going to be different. And I feel like that's where Riot kind of missed the mark, right?
And I know we talked a little bit about like that, the campaign or lack of marketing at the start and to like establish all this stuff. To echo what you were just saying, Cubby, even DeMonte's in the chat right now is like, my mom is so confused about everything that's happening. So, but I know we've been straying a little bit from the John Needham conversation. Part of the reason why
that is actually part of it, right? Because I mean, like, if this caller wants to be like, hey, that's the head of publishing, like we didn't fight for enough money or budget. I don't know like who has what at Riot, but again, as a marketer and as someone that like rebranded at the startup that I worked at, we did have to put a lot of money behind, hey, we're not X brand anymore, we are Y. This is just like it is very common, and I think it's something where like Riot wanted to force the rebrand because it is a new like a product that's very different this year, and even though like I miss the LCS and the CBLOL, if they wanted to make changes, like you might as well do it immediately. I like, do I agree with that? No, but I think that if they did make the change and had a really heavy push where fans felt like they connected and felt like they knew what was going on, that's more okay. Instead, they're like, we're gonna make the change and not do that, and that's kind of a half-ass solution, right? I can understand frustration with that.
So speaking directly to the John Needham stuff, though, I do want to. I've seen a ton of people talking about him or Chris Greeley on the subreddit, and I do want to do the educational thing that we often do on Hotline League, which is talk about the structure of Riot Games so that at least when people are making these things, they can feel informed on how stuff works. So previously, John Needham was in charge of esports. He was the president of esports at the company or CEO of the esports sub company or whatever you want to call it. What happened recently was that they reorganized internally, and as part of that reorganization, John Needham became head of both publishing and esports. So kind of a promotion if you want to consider it that way. I don't know enough about what's going on in terms of pay structure. I mean, he was already basically as high as he could go without getting into like the C-suite of Riot Games itself. But he took over publishing and esports. When that happened, Waylon, who's been there for many, many years, who helped launch the LCS actually, ended up getting promoted into basically running esports underneath John Needham. And then below him, Chris Greeley, after Nas left, ended up taking over being head of League of Legends. Below those two are Carlos and Raul, who are the two people. I don't mind saying all these names because they've all done interviews with me in the past. So like, I'm not
public
trying
information,
to like, yeah. But Carlos and Raul run Americas, and America's League of Legends, respectively. And then below Carlos, for instance, is when you get to like Mark Zimmerman, who is a former co-host of the show. And so that's kind of like the structure on all these types of things. So when you're thinking about like who's making decisions around America's level rebranding, like that type of decision is being made, for instance, above Mark, probably at the Carlos, Raul, Whalen, Chris Greeley conversation. And so one, I don't think that Needham would resign. Jordo, I think you very deftly realized as time went on that like Needham would not resign over LTA mishandling, because he's so far up the ladder that like if other things are going well, like because it's a global company, if LPL is going well, or you know, it would take something that feels like a huge systemic failure across the esports scene for him to be in hot water, I think.
Yeah, like Worlds having a fiasco, like something at that level, kind of.
Or like Valorant starting to fail or whatever. I will say that like I don't actually think all of their esports initiatives are in like the greatest spot from what I can tell. I don't think LEC's in a weird spot where now a ton of their viewership is being moved across co-streaming. You have, you know, I've not checked the numbers, and data out of China is always really difficult, but for a while you've been hearing that like LPL is struggling, especially since they can't seem to compete internationally. Valorant in North America, or the Americas Valorant viewership, is down a lot year over year from when I last checked. So like there are a lot of issues. By the way, worth pointing out that like esports as a whole is in a pretty rough spot. So it's also like how much of this is like just the state of the market versus Riot in decisions and all that type of thing. So wanted to give like a broader lay of the land for everybody who's, you know, calling for resignations or whatever to get a better understanding of this stuff. Look, it's no secret that Cubby and myself, and I feel like everybody that is in our world is disappointed in their decision to make LCS into LTA, especially from a branding perspective. And I think that those decisions are like the biggest issue. And like Riot Games considers themselves a data informed company. I would love to know what data they used that informed that decision, because I can't imagine that there was a great deal of data that said that like people hate the LCS brand and they need to change it.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like going back like to the startup I worked at, our first name was Draftmates, and like trying to keep this quick, right? What we did is that you could play games to support nonprofits. Everyone saw Draftmates and was like, this is it's not gambling. It's not gambling. That was the question that we had, and it really prevented us from working with nonprofits. We rebranded to Give Game. We gamified giving. So you played games to give to nonprofits. That was huge for us. Like startup didn't end up working out, but we felt like if we had that name from the start, we would have been more successful, because that was a major barrier for us going to nonprofits and trying to sell our product. No one had an issue with LCS, right? Like even the leagues globally, there were name changes to get kind of formalized like what was going on, right? There was like LCK, LPL. I think LPL was always the case. LCK changed, right? Once it was removed from OGN, like they moved into franchising. They kind of formalized this, and then to be LTA, obviously I want to believe they wanted LCA, which would have made a lot more sense. I think that once like that missed, it just kind of ended up like being a meh change in the first place. I do like the logos and how they combine. But also
they make an A. We learned that on broadcast.
Yeah. But also like I think the push behind it, if you want to make a change like this, you have to convince someone that was a fan of 10, 11, 12 years that this is the same thing, it's new, and educate people that may be in it, may not be in it, that this is where you go now. That takes a lot more money than what Riot put behind it now. And like for me, that's the greatest issue I had. I would actually be okay with the changes if they had a ginormous big budget push behind it, which I feel like is necessary.
Yeah, and they were not going to ever do anything like that because they're trying to go smaller budget, not big budget.
And that's why we're
which is why it makes no sense. Like your brand is your most valuable. If you're trying to figure out how to make the league profitable, and they did this whole reorganization of how the funding works in the league, why would you ditch the thing that doesn't cost any money and brings you in more money, which is the brand? So I guess if I'm mellowing out a bit, and especially in light of what Travis, helpfully said about the org chart, basically. I just feel like whoever is responsible for the decision to rebrand CBLOL and LCS, and also maybe for the format, they should be held accountable, and hopefully better decisions can be made moving forward, or maybe not, and things will continue to decline, because I really don't see a future for the LTA, but it takes time.
I'll hop in here. It's tough to speak on everything just because I do work on the broadcast, so the position I'm in is a little unique here. But from my perspective,
Mark did it for 5 years. You can do it for this episode.
the decision's been made. I don't see a world where the decision's reversed. I've seen people in chat, and even you're talking about how like, oh, it could go back, it could go back. I don't see it going back. So my perspective is, I was a long-term LCS fan. I loved that league. It brought me hours and years of entertainment in my life. And all I can do now is focus on making the LTA special. It's a new thing. It's here. It's changed. It's weird. Yes, the launch of it has not been handled the way that I wish it had been. Yes, there's things that I would do differently already, just from my being on the broadcast and how I've delivered narratives and storylines and stuff. And I'm trying to iterate and learn week by week. But the goal and the focus that I have is to at least make this mean something, right? If it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So let's kind of accept that and then try and make something of it going forward. And I think that this last weekend was, it's tough because it was a sweep for the North teams, but I think it was a cool look into what could be, which is interregional rivalry between two conferences. And at least the Brazilian crowd showed up this weekend. I hope they do next weekend too. Who knows if they do, if they're disappointed that their teams are now gone. But that's the thing that I've been trying to focus on, is like, what is cool about it? And to me, it is cool that we have this kind of like new rival. Yes, it's a little forced, it's a little shoehorned. We don't have the history, but there are rivals now. Like, we can't fight that. We're fighting for international spots. So let's at least do something with that. So hopefully we can build that and actually turn it into something, because I don't see it going back personally. I think this is going to be the future.
I totally appreciate that take, and I also recognize that all of y'all have your livelihoods and your careers wrapped up in all this, in the content ecosystem, and I don't. So I just get to I have the benefit of being just a kind of a sideline observer. I have a different job in a different field, but from my perspective, that's part of the reason why I think somebody should be held accountable, because I feel like these choices hurt all of you and all of the people that I've followed for decades and care about. And so I at least if I hope better decisions can be made moving forward, but I also hope that at least some kind of justice can be done in terms of the internal handling of all this, for I think the damage that's been done to the broader ecosystem by the jettisoning of two brands, despite the fact that one of them had been on tough times, but I think as a result of Mark's choices over the last year, been looking on the up and up. So anyway, that's all I'll say about it. I know it's a delicate topic for all of y'all, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, before we end, I mean, I do want to add, like, a lot of the changes that Mark made were actually adapted globally and like still exist today. So I think that still like leveled up the product as a whole, right? And it's really good that those stayed, right? Like, I think the live patch thing was huge. Like, teams were so stubborn about that, and I know we used that for NACL early on, and it was like such a giant win right off the bat, right? And I'm really glad it's like pretty much globally accepted now. So there are still wins that like Mark had him. You don't feel the momentum right now because like what the narrative is, but a lot of those things still exist and are good, and that is a good thing, right? So there's still positives to take away.
Yeah, by the way, I've heard that there's people in chat were saying there's a buzzing noise. If that's continuing, please let me know. I think I've tried to move stuff around to hopefully stop it. But I think it's been funny because in a way that normally doesn't happen, there's been an attempt to delineate decisions from like what are the sort of LTA level decisions that like maybe Mark is making as they relate to the broadcast versus like decisions that are happening on a higher level, like rebranding and all that type of stuff. Obviously it's happening because Mark is such a known quantity compared to other folks, but I would echo, obviously he and I are good friends, but I would echo that it is worth noticing how many decisions Mark seems to have introduced to the league that have been adapted by other regions and were picked up other places. And so personally, I feel like he is. Look, I'll be candid. And I know I'm biased, but I feel like Mark is sitting there trying to plug as many holes on this ship as he can, while there are other decisions being made internally that are like drilling another hole into the ship. So, I mean, I get that people might discount my opinions on this, and that's fine, but that is certainly what it feels like from my position, being close to Riot and knowing the company for 13 years, but also just as an outside person watching it as a fan. So
as a totally disconnected party, Travis,
Yeah.
I'll just say everything you said for you. I totally agree. I think Mark's been doing an amazing job. I thought his decisions while the LCS was still going were fantastic, and knowing something about how organizations work, it really seems like he's doing his best to work with poor choices that were made above him. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think he's just. I do not envy him. As many jokes as there are of Travis wants to be the commissioner or has applied 17 times for the commissioner.
I heard it was 38. I
I'm
heard the
glad-
number was close to like
Well,
what
it depends on
JoJo
how you
was
count.
late for with C9.
It
Just
depends.
kept on
But
inflating.
I am very happy I'm not currently the commissioner, or whatever title he has right now. Is he? What does his Twitter say? Does he say? I feel like I've asked him before.
I think League of Legends
LTA
Overlord.
commish. So it does say
Ah.
LTA
God Emperor
commish.
Czar of all League of Legends.
Yeah,
all
that's
the
what I
different
thought it
stuff
was.
we
Something
have.
like that. Yeah.
No.
So, anyway, thanks so much, caller, for ringing in. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
No, shout out to all y'all. I think you're all doing a great job. Everybody in the whole scene, the players, the broadcast talent. The main motivation for this take was that it kind of sucks to see this all hurt the whole ecosystem and reverberate onto everybody, at least from my perspective. So
Thanks for
I
caring
think
enough to like post and call
Yeah.
in. By the way, like even if we don't 100% agree with it, like I mean, ultimately, like the fans are what matters, right? So if you guys are engaging with this, like it's really good. So thank you.
Thanks
I
so
mean,
much
we
for the
still
call,
care.
Jordo.
Yeah.
Anything?
Yep.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, and thanks for the shout outs, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll take one more call, then we'll hop into a sponsor
Got
shout out. But thank you
Great
to
start to the positivity episode.
Yeah, exactly. Where did Cubby accidentally pulled something in? Okay, thank you to Manly Muppet EMBW. Hope you're doing well, EMBW. Shammy KC gifted 5 subs. The Noblet for the 56 months. C Sears at 27 months. Shammy gifted a sub to Raz. Slawcat, the Catman, multiple cats, I guess. I don't know how I feel about that. But thanks everybody for the subs. That is very much appreciated. We have right now Lovely calling in. Lovely, is your profile picture a cat?
It is.
Okay, well, I'm under attack right now. I'm under siege. Where are you
My
calling
bad,
from?
Travis.
There's a cat.
I'm calling from Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. What do you want to talk about on the show?
This might be a hot take since I've heard the opposite a bunch of times on this show recently. But I think that the format isn't very bad, and most of the bad reaction is an issue of branding rather than the format itself. I think it being billed as a kickoff tournament rather than a split would have made the reactions much more positive. And I think like the connotations from a split mean that it's a season and you get to see every team play against each other, whereas a tournament would, I think, bring expectations more in line with what the format actually is.
Wow, I agree so much.
So kind of like the LCK, basically, because from my understanding, that's what LCK is doing essentially. It's the cup that they're calling.
Oh
right?
yeah, they're doing subs. Like you got Showmaker. Like I mean, Showmaker. Literally, if we had 10 Showmakers in Fearless drafts, like I mean, everyone would be so much more engaged with the product. Like he's just a miracle for this, right? But yeah, like LCK, they're treating this like I mean, T1's talking about like how they're trialing players, right? We saw Smash. They're trying to figure things out. A lot more subs. Yeah, like I mean, everyone's complaining about best of fives, but also it's like it is really the lens of like I think that those teams were smart in being like, hey, this format is different than the other formats that we have this split. I also want to highlight like Yamato said that this shouldn't count towards the Golden Road. I completely agree because this format is different. And I've been the one sitting on the show like I'm doing this as a novelty split, right? It's like something where it's going to be different than the rest of the year. Like I think treating it experimentally is really good. And I think that LCK like has gotten wins because they have treated it a little bit experimentally, right? And so I do feel like the pitching and the branding of it has mattered a little bit. I think that part of the issue of it though was that like because the LTA North and South were going to culminate and it was going to be like this big rivalry, then like I feel like if that was from day one and it's like, hey, it's like it's a kickoff split, right? And like we go from there, then like, that's great, right? So I think that like how it was pitched to fans like did matter a little bit. I don't have a huge issue with the format. Obviously, the result sucks, and the one thing that like I would have changed is I would have just done shotgun this like from day one, like have the teams interact, but that's really tough to do like logistically. But if you can't figure that out, I feel like that would have been a win because then we actually would have gotten more interaction between North and South, where hopefully you see more games go the South's way, right? Because I think that we can all sit here and agree that like it didn't feel like much of a rivalry this week, which of course that's the goal of this in the end. So yeah,
I think the format is fine, especially so. I think I've said this previously on the show, but when I first started hearing them talk about this, or that like Riot was considering like creating this additional thing at the beginning of the year, I was hearing that they were describing it as one giant global tournament, which is essentially what it ended up kind of being. Cubby, you're shaking your head no.
Well, I mean it is, but like having 5 teams, like the number 1 team from every region come in and play this is for me. It's not the most enticing international event. Like again,
yeah,
I mean,
but it's not supposed to be the most enticing international event.
Yeah.
I look for what we can get in 2025. I am fine with what it is. I think it's unfortunate that it takes so long to get there because we've been playing. I mean, other regions started a week before us, right? Like middle of June until beginning of April, or sorry, middle of January until beginning of April is a really long time for something like this. But yeah, I don't mind it if it was billed that way as like a, hey, we go really fast through this like quick kickoff tournament and everything's fine. I'm trying when people talk about the format, what is difficult for me to understand, and maybe I should be asking you this, Lovely, is like what when you refer to the format, what aspects are you referring to? Because I feel like some people say format and they're talking about like we shouldn't have to play CBLOL, or they say format and they're like, I don't think it's good that like teams can get eliminated so quickly, or they're talking about the fearless stuff. So like what do you specifically mean, Lovely?
I think I'm talking about all of that. I think like the main thing that comes to my mind is the tournament structure rather than the double round robin or single round robin more regular season structure. But I think like a lot of the critiques, like teams being eliminated early, that's one that I think people would have less of an issue with if there was more of an understanding of it as a tournament rather than as a split. Because when I hear split, I think of what we've had in the past for splits being regular season where, every team plays every team at least once, if not twice. And it's much more extended. So I think it's all tied up. I like Fearless. I think Fearless is a part of it as well. But yeah, I just think the biggest thing for me is like the tournament structure versus the like double round robin or single round robin regular season structure.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And I think it's better than adding in just another split that feels like a clone of every other split. If people's, and I, again, it seems like everybody likes to say and agree with the idea of like, this format sucks, or I'm unhappy with what this initial thing is, but it's hard sometimes to delineate like where people are frustrated. Mm-hmm. And so for you, for instance, I very much agree. Like, I don't mind having it set up the way that it has been. There's a separate conversation to be had about like what the first part of us fighting Brazil has looked like, or the South, but I think it's fine. Like, I honestly think it's fine. I wish there was something for Disguise to go do, but
yeah, that's the tough part is like
the 2-month break sucks.
But you can solve that other ways. Let these guys go compete in some like tier 2 thing that you give to a partner or something. I don't
like online tournament, like bottom 4 of each region. Like I'm okay with online tournaments if they're like subsections or going to compete in other third parties, which I know that you advocated for, Travis. And I said like that was a really big deal that I even think you brought that up, right? As someone's been like around as long as you. So yeah, I that's something that I'd actually consider like like moving forward is opening up like even the pro circuit to some of that if you are going to have breaks like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to eliminate
think,
people really early, just let them go do something else, you know?
Yeah, I think I heard this somewhere, but I think it would have been really cool to have like money matches or something between the
Oh yeah.
teams that
Yeah, I
got
think we talked
eliminated
about that a
early.
couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Between the teams that got eliminated early and like the top of the tier 2 scene or something like that, just like one-off money matches. So there's some stakes. Could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, Double Lift, if you're listening to this, you just made a team. You're going to go for the NACLO Qs. Start challenging the bottom 4 LTA teams to money
So
matches.
the problem is
Let's
they
go.
can't, Kangas. Well, like he can challenge, but the bottom 4 can't go compete in anything that feels like a competition.
Yeah, at the moment they can't.
Damn it.
So that's
I'll
that's
allow
again what I would love to change.
I have no power, but I'll allow it.
Yeah, I think that would be good. So I don't know. It sounds like we're all kind of like, yeah, format not as bad as people think. So I don't know how that will go with the audience, but yeah,
I think a big complaint of it was the result. And like if the result's different, then I don't think the format's like a problem. I think that the biggest complaint is that it's best of 3 semis, but that's like one less show day. So again, could be budgetary. I think that that's like the most valid one. I could propose like a shotgun tournament where you like play from day 1 in the same spot, but I think like what we have is actually fine.
no, I saw.
I think.
Go ahead, Kangas.
Oh, yeah, go, Travis.
It's you.
Oh, you want me? Okay. All right. I'll just hop in. I think a big part of it is because we're 2 conferences. Because we are North and South Conference and we needed to get to the point where we have interconference play is why like a round robin doesn't make sense for best of 3s. I don't like what LEC is doing best of 1s in like the fearless part.
Yeah,
for,
that
like,
is
the
so
round
weird.
robin.
That's
That
like here's
sucks.
our fearless
suck.
global fearless.
At least we
split.
got fearless, but because of fearless, I think it would have been too long to do a round robin unless we like had an extra show day, which they are broadcasting on Monday. We maybe could have looked to do that too, but it seems like not. I was not in those rooms for those conversations, but that's my interpretation. Is like this decision for like just single elim tournament, or I guess double elim tournament, basically for the North was for the 3 weeks so that we could get to the inter.
Honestly, one of the biggest issues I think with our viewership this split has been that we are doing so many best of 3s and best of 5s. And I know that like if you want to do fearless, you have to do it this way. But like it is very funny to me because like Reddit pops up and they just jerk off LEC viewership all day long. And then I'm like, okay, but all this viewership is of best of 1s. Meanwhile, over in LTA, we had that Saturday a couple of weeks ago that was just like all the bottom teams all playing each other for in like best of 3s. And like we get garbage shit viewership on those days. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised that nobody wants to watch Lion SR and Disguise Dig and no one's watching that shit. Like, are we really surprised? I don't know. That's the thing that's so
Disguise Dig was a banger series though.
I actually think that some of that comes from like marketing push and not realizing like maybe that LTA North is at a different location or what's up or what it is. I will actually chalk some of that up to that. And I will have the flip side of LEC was robbed from having way more time of watching players like Caps, like Mirwin, like JoJo play in Fearless. And like those are players that like Showmaker and like others can really abuse it. And the response to Fearless has been a lot more positive than what I thought it would be as someone that covered it for all of last year, right? I kind of thought that fans would be like, oh, it's like
Called
just
it.
okay. Like,
By the way.
I know. You were right, Kangas, right? I thought that it would be like a little bit more apprehensive towards it. But if you told me that Fearless would be for the entire calendar year for next year, I would not be that surprised. And I think that LEC was really robbed of experiencing more of that within their region, like throughout most of I think the season, right? So yeah. I know Whoop was like Cubby's a Fearless hater, shaking my head. I saw the quality of play go down a little bit in NACL, and I thought like fans would actually catch on to that. But no, in the first split, like with people again, kind of like I think the LCK did the best job of selling this. It's a bit of a kickoff. We're gonna be experimental. We're gonna play with subs. And we're going to have Showmaker play wild shit. And that's gone really well, right? It's been a lot of fun. So like I've been really happy to see it go like that, right? I am happy I'm wrong. So, yeah.
Yeah. Over on YouTube, I'm getting one guide right now or whatever it's called. But Bert says, Travis just said on one hand, we need something for the bottom 4 teams to participate in. Then says no one wants to watch the bottom 4 teams, huh? Yeah. I'm saying I think you can have something that these guys go and participate in that doesn't need to get a ton of good viewership. You just need to unlock the ability for them to go do it. If Doublelift wants to host money matches of his team against the bottom 4 to see if they can win anything, I think
for
that's
some of the
fine.
tier 2 teams in there, you know,
just give them something to participate in. You don't
it could be a
need.
banger.
This has been the error of Riot Games and the audience forever, is the assumption that every game needs to have a ton of viewership in order for it to exist. Tier 2 should never have been about trying to get a product that has a ton of viewership on it, and that should have never been a major KPI for Tier 2. And similarly, like the bottom 4 teams going and doing something to, instead of fucking off for 2 months, like that does not need to get viewership either. So
no one would be asking for stream scrims if we had more like competitive gameplay going on.
Yeah,
like fans wanting like scrims is partly missing the issue, which is there just are not enough comp games right now. You have a gap where if you are a team that's not great, like Dig, you end your season in September. You do not play until end of January. You get knocked out of the tournament in early February. You don't play till early April, right? Like, no wonder people want to have more content because like that team's barely playing throughout the year, right? That sucks. So, again, I think opening things up and like having more TOs come in and actually try and make something of this, I'm all for.
Yeah. Hey, Lovely, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Just the show. Thank you for putting it on every week. It's a fun time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Oh, okay, we're going to take a quick break to talk about NZXT. NZXT is our sponsor. There's just a little bit of time left in the NZXT President's Day sale. So if you're watching live, I do want to shout out the fact that their President's Day sale is live. You can get up to $200 off a gaming PC, and it's a site-wide deal. So they have site-wide deals. Spend $50 when you spend $1,000. Spend $100 when you spend $1,500. Save $150 when you spend $2,500, or save $200 when you spend $3,000. But the cool thing, and I've mentioned this before, is that my code, which is Travis5, stacks with those deals. So you can start to save a pretty good chunk this President's Day sale. I know there's some people maybe already getting some early like tax returns or something along those lines. Like this is a great time to go pick up a new PC. You can do so over at NZXT. There's a link that is being shared in both the Twitch and YouTube chat, and there's also one that's in the YouTube description of this video. You can go find it. I think Spotify stops our ability to share those links now in the description. I don't know. I was talking to Jordan about it recently, but you can go find those over on the description on YouTube if you want to do so. And clicking through that link actually really does help us a ton. But again, using the code Travis5 is a great way to stack that and lets them know that we sent you over there while saving you some money. So thanks so much to NZXT for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate all their support, and they're a fantastic partner for us over the past year or so.
You're telling me if I had waited 3 months to buy my PC, I could have gotten my Player 2 for like $150 cheaper. Come on, you tell me now, Travis?
I mean, I think didn't you get yours around Black Friday?
You did get a deal.
I did. You know what?
So this is a better deal then.
You also got a deal at the time. So
okay, all right. Well, fine.
So props
it's
to
still a great
NZXT
PC.
for granting an even better deal now.
Yeah.
Hey.
I don't know if this is a better deal. Look, I love all my NZXT deals equally. I don't try to compare them to each other. But again, you can use code Travis5, which is pretty sick. So.
And you know what? If I had waited until today to buy it, I would not have been able to play Civ 7. Because my old PC would not have been able to.
Which might have been a good thing for you based off of what I've heard of Civ 7.
I am having fun with it.
Okay. I really like it.
Yeah.
I think
that you guys are both
good,
playing.
It's flawed, but a lot of the mechanics they introduced are really good. And Civ's a great dev, and they'll iterate on it, so it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
The thing I'll say against it is I don't think it really like revolutionizes anything that Civ 5 or Civ 6 already did. So I think that's valid criticism. But as a game, it's fun. I do like it a lot.
I refuse to play Civ 6 because the district system, you had to like map out your entire game like turn 5.
I love it.
And Civ 7, it feels so much more fluid how you can build out cities. It was like the biggest upgrade for me. So I actually am going to swap from like 5 to 7 with this. I feel pretty confident about that.
I'm looking up because I wonder if this is a situation where it's got an 80 on Metacritic. The user score is generally favorable. I thought maybe this is one of the few times where like critics were
there are UI
down
issues
on a game.
Yeah. But
and
again,
the audience was up, but like, because I see a bunch of people also in chat saying Civ 7 is good, but apparently no, users also dislike it.
there are UI issues, but again, if you're a diehard Civ player, you use mods. There aren't mods out for it yet. Like, mods are huge for UI, so I think that like fans are really overreacted to that. Yeah, I can go on, but anyway.
Yeah.
Somebody over in, I think it's Zamelkai, in Discord, she says best of 1, best of 3 is not what explains the viewership gap between LEC and LTA whatsoever, and I will fight Travis on this. Yeah, I'm not trying to suggest, and I guess I should say this because YouTube comments will come after me too. I'm not trying to say that LTA would have the same viewership as LEC if we had best of 1s, but I do think that a lot of the viewership issues we've been having this split are exacerbated by the fact that we often have an entire day of bad games because we are just having bad teams play each other, or we're having good teams play bad teams, or whatever.
Bad news for you, Travis. You took way too long to clarify that take,
Yes.
so the comments have already been made on YouTube.
I know, it's just so exhausting. It often, being a content creator in 2025 often feels like you're just playing fucking whack-a-mole with like, actually, I do think, Travis, that you have not been clear on this, and it's so annoying.
How could you say this when this other thing?
Shogo, thank you for the raid of 73 people. I think it's pretty good to see.
Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome, Shogo. Big fan.
Also, Jaffe became a sub. Thank you, or resubbed for 49 months. Farmer G75 and Benjamin, thank you everybody. Maddie Socials, thanks so much. Over on YouTube, it's been over an hour since anybody became a member, so I should probably mention that you can become a member for as low as $2.99. Doing so supports the channel. You get to vote on an exclusive video that I do every month, and I'm actually going to post the exclusive video poll soon for this month. So if you want to go vote in that, become a member. And you also can see Hotline League early. I hope you get to see it before we make the thumbnail and all that stuff. There's some benefits too. So,
by the way, I know we're doing a caller show and we get their takes, but if you want to talk to Shogo at some point, he just whipped Doublelift's ass in their streamed scrims that they did. I actually got to co-stream that. So Shogo's the bot laner that was playing against Doublelift. Be fun to get his perspective.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, if Shogo wants to call in, maybe we can do a quick call towards the end of the show.
That'd be positive.
Yeah.
Shogo can say Doublelift's washed. I swept them. Actually, they lost one game, but still, yeah.
They lost two.
I'll let everybody coordinate with that with Shogo, because we have our next caller here, which is Golden KS. Golden, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Seattle, Washington.
Seattle, Washington. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I wanted to talk about Team Liquid and a fan calling in here and talk about UmTi and the fact that he's probably playing for his job this weekend. Just the way the current things are looking, it just looks like TL is probably going to miss international tournaments if they keep going this route, especially how C9 and Fly look so good, and 100T actually looks pretty good as well. So if TL doesn't perform and UmTi looks the same, I think Steve may pull the plug and then just make some shift, especially because there's such a big window between now and the next split.
Yeah. The UmTi thing is one of those situations where I we have to talk about it. I feel bad because he seems like a nice guy, and everybody in the world is shitting on him over the course of this last weekend, or well, I guess across Sunday yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, it's been across the split, frankly.
Yeah.
Like, he has been underperforming, right?
Yeah, but I think I think the fact that they were the only team to drop a game yesterday was, or the last weekend, was also something that probably hurt them a ton from North America.
I mean, it was also the manner. Like, I mean, frankly, like, he did get outperformed by Jose in those games, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Jose Diota is like pretty decent player, right? But it is kind of the manner. As someone that has watched UmTi, I would say a bit longer than the common LCS or LTA fan, going back to LCK, UmTi is a streaky player. And I think what made UmTi's story so interesting coming over to LTA or LCS and now LTA is that he was really an LCK journeyman, and he had to fight for spots, but there were times where, like, on Fred at Brion, UmTi was able to take games and upset good teams in the LCK because of how well he played early. And that there were other times where on similar teams and similar scenarios where UmTi just couldn't get anything going and looked bad, right? So for me, I'm kind of used to UmTi being a bit more of a streakier player. And I can't sit here and defend how he's playing because it is really tough to defend like how he's playing. Like he's not playing the best. I can't say like Poppy's kind of hard to play into Ash Braum GP. But also like that doesn't excuse some of what we saw in the game. And I do think that there is greater problems within TL outside of just UmTi. But UmTi for sure is the one that doesn't look good, right? And a lot of people in chat are being like, oh, bro has 0 good champs, like 1 Sedge is gone. Look, his Xin and his Poppy, they have been good for years. His Lee Sin is really good. He can play Lilia. Maokai and Sejuani are hands down the best champs that he has to play. That's not just an UmTi thing. It for sure is a TL thing too, and how they played with swaps and diving and being that aggressive, right? Like this isn't. There are UmTi issues and there are greater TL things. And so I feel like some fans don't see that and just end up being hard on UmTi because he is the one that on screen looks bad, right?
Yeah.
And again, I don't think he's playing great League. I don't think APA has played his best either. But is it replacement time? I don't know. And that's has to be a TL question. I think that TL earned the right to run it back. And if we are going to talk about like what this split is, I mean, we're sitting in this show earlier being like, hey, if it was phrased as a kickoff split, it might be better, right? Or like fans might have clung onto it more. Is it the time to be like, okay, we've ran this for a year and change. What we are is what we are. And UmTi is having issues and we can't fix greater issues because of that. Or the greater issues are the UmTi like looking worse. Frankly, only TL knows what the answer is to that, right? So I can't sit here and like super defend UmTi's play. And but I also can't sit here and like call for his head. I just think that like as someone that, again, I think I've watched UmTi more than most people in the chat. I'm used to him being streaky. And the way that they play early, especially when they're at their best, it is volatile, right? Like they're not going to go handshake camps. They're going to go, take what they do and then make dives. I think that UmTi, like for me, like frankly, if I had to give a gut check or what I feel, I think that UmTi is trying to do a little bit too much right now. And like that for me is kind of hurting him. I think that TL need to decide as a team what plays they want to make. Because I see UmTi really forcing the drop camps to go make plays in a lot of scenarios that may not be fantastic in the game. Or I feel like, hey, like this could work, but if it doesn't, like you're opting in for a 55-45. And if it doesn't work, like your game's really hard from there, right?
Yeah.
So I like for me, it's like I would love to see UmTi maybe take things just a little bit slower and see if he can continue to make some of the good plays. But yeah, I mean, there have been a lot of plays where like UmTi doesn't like he is getting caught out. He's dragging Nico into the team. It's bad.
Yeah,
right?
It's not just the decision making, and like decision making is harder for an average viewer to really comprehend. I think it's good to hear the analysts and the casters talk about those moments, but what most fans see is him fail a flash engages in Zhao trying to follow an Azir bot lane when the Azir didn't have to burn flash. And they're like doing that math in their head. Like, okay, we burned ult flash and didn't get anything out of them. Or they see him on Poppy with a Vi ulting him and he's channeling his ult and then also presses W. Neither of which are going to stop a Vi who's ulting you. So those are just like clear mechanical mistakes. And those are way harder to defend than like, oh, there was at least an idea for a play and it was misexecution. It's the misexecution that I think a lot of people are worried about because that's the thing that stands out the most. And if you're going to look at upgrading, I think the caller and a lot of people as well, like in online discourse, I struggle to fight that of like, yeah, you could look at other options. Freaking Jose Dioto, go grab him and bring it back over from LTA South. Players like Yuji are waiting in the wings as well.
That's where I was going to turn the conversation is to ask you guys both, like, where are the obvious pickups if they wanted to do something?
You could look at imports because it is an import slot that's open. But if you're looking local, technically Yuji is still an import. He would take up a spot, but he has been playing in NA tier 2 for quite a while. Could be somebody to look at. But Cubby, you might have a better pulse on that than I do.
I think that So Yuji, I think really highly of Yuji as a player. Like when someone asked me like who should be promoted from NACL last year, like the 4 names I ripped off were Sturdy, Yuji, XU, and Shaden. I would put Sturdy and Yuji probably a little bit higher than those two. And I think it speaks really highly that like I have 3 junglers in that list because I do think that jungle is really deep in NA. I think that my one concern with Yuji is he is like I think that he would actually somewhat fit in the TL because the one thing that he looked really good last year, like he was a back-to-back most valuable prospect. He always has had a winning bot lane. And I think that somehow he plays the game because he can play both styles, but I think he's better when he's getting resources for himself. It does really rely on having a winning bot lane. I think that that would actually be a good fit within TL because he would have like Yon and Core in the team and some experience around him. Also, APA like has spent time at Maryville and is close with them. Like in off seasons, he'll actually sometimes go boot camp there because they have really good ping, and obviously like he attended there at one point. So I do think that Yuji is a decent option. I also sat here when UmTi, I heard that there was a potential chance that he was going to head back to Korea. I thought the contracts in River would have also been okay fits for TL if that was going to be the case. But those are also interleague, right? Not
There's
people
another
that don't have jobs.
There's another team down in tier 2, the Double F team. What do you think of their jungler, Cubby?
Oh,
He's in
yeah.
chat. He's in
I
chat.
heard.
Be careful.
Yeah, no, don't be careful. I thought Keel played really well in this series. I was on his POV when I was co-streaming, and yeah, I thought Keel actually played well. Now, Keel isn't actually trying to go pro right now, but yeah, he outplayed Spica in that series. So yeah.
I was suggesting Spica, but you were saying Keel. Yeah, for those that don't know.
No, I don't know how seriously Keel's talking it. Actually, we might take a call about the Double Lift team and streaming scrims afterwards, but I felt bad because like Keel said he was going to transition to a coach. He's playing again, and he played 3 games and had to drop out for schoolwork. And you could kind of see it in his eyes where he's like, man, like I really enjoyed playing that series. Like I played pretty well. He's like, I don't know if I'm going to play comp again, but yeah, I was kind of bummed at the end of like his stream because Keel was someone we voted to be a most valuable prospect as well. And he's been around for a while. So that's actually like he had a really good split. I know Spawn was like really hyping him up back when Spawn was coaching NACL and thought that Keel was like playing outstanding league, which he was in that team.
He was a front runner for MVP for a while in NACL.
Yeah,
forget which split, but for a while he was.
Yeah, but I don't know where Keel's at in terms of wanting to go pro. But
I do want to
again, jungle's a really, really deep role.
Who are watching not live or are doing the podcast or listening to the podcast, like what we had mentioned that we got rated by Shogo, and then that Shogo had just been playing against Double Lift's team, and then I guess there was a beef that broke out where people were talking about Keel gapping Spica, and so then Spica showed up in the chat to defend himself, and now has disappeared, I think.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, very, very funny. So where were we? Oh yeah, so okay, so you think there are options for Team Liquid to pick up that would be upgrades to UmTi?
I think so, but I think it echoes the caller's take that he's playing for his job this weekend. Because to Cubby's point, if he's a streaky player, if he can reverse that and get on the positive streak here, then there's a chance. Like if they win out this tournament, there's no reason to replace him. But if he has another bad weekend, it's like, ooh, that might.
I don't think he's playing for his job.
Looking at.
I don't think he's playing for his job. No, I think that like it would have to be issues in split 2. Again, I know that there is some time, but. And I know that UmTi hasn't played well, but no, I actually think that TL sticks it out. Also, the way that TL plays the game, I think that UmTi is a big part of that style because he sacks so much in the game. And I sat here and argued that I thought that UmTi should have been first team all-pro jungler like last summer, which was a bit of a hot take. I had UmTi inspired Blabber 1, which I didn't see. But if they were to swap junglers, I think that TL would actually have to really change how they play the game. Because I don't know how many junglers can actually fit into the style that UmTi plays.
I hear you, Cubby, but I don't think UmTi is top 3 jungle in the league right now, and we're not talking internationally. So
yeah, he's not right now.
I understand PL will have to change the way they play, but even if they keep UmTi and he's doing well, like they're still not guaranteed to go to Worlds. And at least from following TL for how many years now, Steve is adamant on making it into World competition because of the sponsors and everything. So, I mean, if there's a chance to do it, I feel like the chance to do it now. But obviously, we'll see. Hopefully, he does well this weekend, and obviously, Spawn is flying in soon to hopefully get the team on the right track as well. So I am hopeful they'll be able to turn around, but it's not a good look so far.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. I don't know. I know you said he's not playing for his spot this weekend, but I do feel like there's got to be some anxiety from Steve because the team was so good, and then like everything went sideways once the minions backdoored their base. I feel like the team has not been, it's been 6 months of them, and I know obviously some of that was off season, but it doesn't seem like they've been really on their shit for a while. So I feel like there's going to be pressure to make some sort of change.
I also want to say that like, Spawn's not in the building right now, right? Like Spawn is remote, and that could have an impact too, right? Like I think that a lot of fans are pinning this on UmTi, where I look at their games and how they look, and like this has to be bigger than UmTi, right? And that doesn't defend some of the mistakes that UmTi's made, which like have been egregious, but I think that this has to be bigger than him too, right? So it's the decision of like, do we have to change this in order to fix like the bigger picture? I think that's what TL faces. That's why I don't think he's playing for his job this weekend. So
yeah. But if never mind. I shouldn't. The joke I was gonna make is that if it's like Spawn, what's going wrong? Is it that you're not here, or is it that UmTi is bad? He might be like, yeah, maybe we could replace UmTi. He's been the issue for a bit. I don't know. This is a bad joke, but I thought it was funny. Golden, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I want to shout out my wife, my dog, shout out you guys, and then honestly, I want to see UmTi back. I feel like he's been just not looking good, even like emotionally. So hopefully he'll be able to bring back that positive energy that he was famous for, and does well this weekend. So cheering for him.
Cool. Thanks so much for the call. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Well, we've got time for a couple more callers, so hopefully we can get somebody on. I know you guys were trying to coordinate something, so we'll see if that ends up happening.
we got one more coming up now, and yeah, Shogo, if you want to call in, hop in the Discord. I can get it to you too.
Yeah, why don't you go grab the person? We'll do a break after that to talk about PrizePicks. Thank you to Yoser for the 28 months, Akarn Liberated for the 27, and Pangstrom with the Prime. It's been about an hour and a half since we got a YouTube membership, so maybe I should mention that you could become a YouTube member for just $2.99. Doing so gets you access to videos early, including Hotline League, and you get access to an exclusive video every month. Maybe somebody could become a YouTube member. All right, Rob is here. Rob, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Troy, Michigan.
Troy, Michigan. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Yeah, my take is that C9 is going to win it all this next weekend. I think that when we're looking at this team, everyone's kind of always known that they had the mechanical skill to do it, and like we're finally seeing them come together. The reunion of Sven, Blabber, and Vulcan it's like I'm watching 2020 back again, and Thanatos, he's kind of playing like we were promised back when he first came in. Originally, he was just kind of this lane dominant guy, but he looks like really solid right now. I'd probably say he's the best top laner in the league, and I expect them to take it all.
All right, I'm going to start off here. First off, I was the biggest doubter of C9 going into this new split. I had them lowest of all the broadcast members in my predictions, and in my mind, I was like, I don't think Sven's going to match the firepower of Berserker. I think Thanatos is still going to be a liability for them in team fights not being on the same page, and I don't think Loki is like the premier signing in the offseason. And oh my God, was I wrong? Because Sven is slotted in just fine. Vulcan and Sven look like one of, if not the best bot lane in the league. Vulcan is like a completely different player right now, dude. His Bard game awakened something in me. Yeah. And Thanatos on the same page as the rest of the team. Like, their team fighting's good. They can play patient and avoid team fighting when they need to. Like, the versatility of this team is really impressing me. And I would not be surprised if they actually do take the whole thing. I think I'm actually on your side right now, caller. And I did not think that I was going to be there at this point of the split. I thought that there was a chance that they even miss out on the Brazil portion of the tournament if things didn't click. But yeah, I'm happy to be wrong because they're looking great.
Cubby, what do you think is going to happen?
I think I think about this a little bit. We'll talk about the positives of C9 so far. I think Vulcan's playing really well, which is good for me to see because I think we're used to Vulcan being one of, if not the top supports in the league, and we hadn't seen that for the last couple of splits or years. And it feels like that Vulcan is playing really well. I think that the way that I would attack C9. I'm trying to think of like strats I can use to like beat them. I think that C9, like right now, TL probably looks like the weakest team. So C9 being in finals, I don't think it's a hot take at all. I still feel like the winner of 100 Thieves FlyQuest will be a little bit more tested. And I still favor FlyQuest over C9. I think that the series that FlyQuest played into C9, FlyQuest took a lot of fights they should not have taken. And I think that was the greatest pro or trait of FlyQuest at Worlds is that when they did take these comps that do scale, they were really disciplined about knowing what to give and then when they were strong enough to fight. And all of a sudden, like they're playing Smolder Maokai and deciding to fight first grubs like against Yone Rumble and then just get GG'd, right? It's like, why are we doing that? I don't think the FlyQuest will make the same mistakes. So for me, I still favor FlyQuest, but I do think that C9 are like they should be the heaviest favorites to make finals, given where their strength is and where TL's strength is. I do want to credit Thanatos, who has been laning out of his goddamn mind, and it does feel like some of the issues that I had with Thanatos. We're booting the client on screen here, Kangas. Nice.
Oh,
no, I like that. He's got his most Hotline League plans ready, but
I'm getting ready.
Yeah, when I watched C9 play last year with Thanatos, there were a couple moments where I couldn't tell if he was disconnected or the team was disconnected, right? Because I didn't know if it was a language barrier or if like Thanatos was making those choices on his own. He does feel more connected as a whole with the team, which for me really shores up his play because he was always a strong laner. And it still feels like, like he's playing even better with the team and on the map as a whole. So yeah, I think that C9 looks pretty decent so far. I still favor FlyQuest, but if you have to give me odds of any team right now, like the highest to make the final, probably C9. So by that logic, I mean, if they're your favorites to win, I actually, like in that logic, I agree, even if I still think that FlyQuest is my favorite to win, even though I feel like their odds to make it to the finals are a little bit less than C9.
On the broader C9 thing, it has just been really cool for me because I think there were a lot of people who were shitting on everybody other than Thanatos and Loki, I guess. I mean, even people were like skeptical of the Loki signing. But thank you, Titan Esports tonight. I'm getting all these raids from folks. It's very cool.
Nice.
But I think that what's been awesome is to see how well they have done. I mean, even on the show, we had a call not too many weeks ago of somebody who was like, Sven is washed. He's like an old man. Like, what are we doing here? And a lot of people were worried about Vulcan because he had a rough couple of years in terms of like what was going on with the teams that he was working with. Like I have just been excited. Even people were down on Blabber, right? Who is, in contention for one of the best North American players of all time. So I've been really thrilled to see the team step up and to do so well. Obviously, it's come at the cost of other teams like Team Liquid, but it's been really neat. Will they win this weekend? I don't know, honestly. I mean, I give it kind of like a even odds between them and FlyQuest. I know FlyQuest has had like a pretty good streak, but I know that they also looked a little rocky in North America, and I think that like their current environment, the current changes, all that stuff, it just creates a little bit more variability than maybe would be there otherwise. So that probably just generally increases the odds that like C9 could end up being our first stand representative.
I do want to, I will add to that. I think the Vulcans played really, really well this split. We have seen in Fearless, if you go to games 4 or 5, the support pool get really narrowed. I would, if there was an Enchantress game, I would favor Busio in that game. But I do think that you can balance that with like the AD pool. Maybe I'd give that one to Sven over Masu, even though I've seen Masu play a lot of things really successfully. If we want to go, yeah, I still remember watching Masu play Raiwai's AP Kog'Maw into Xayah and just poking that thing out. It was actually a goated counter pick, like way back when. So I feel like his pool is a little bit deeper than what fans realize because we just haven't seen it, or it hasn't needed to be seen a whole lot on the stage. So I actually think that if I were FlyQuest or 100 Thieves going up against C9, I would actually really try to attack Vulcan's pool early. Like, I think taking a Poppy jungle game and like trying to narrow up his pool early might be good. Because for me, historically, Vulcan has always just been stronger on engagers, and it has been really common that you see in Fearless that you just run out of engagers towards the end. And I also think that like what the rest of the team is playing, it is really important for them that Vulcan is on engaged, and he's been doing a phenomenal job on that, right? So I think that that's something that like I would actually, in a lot of Fearless formats, like you usually see one role get attacked a little bit more than the rest. If I'm going into C9, I would probably attack Vulcan like in that role too, and just see if you can get him on 2 Enchantress games. Like I think if you do that successfully, like it actually might be a win con.
And not only in like, we've only seen best of 3 so far. Once we get to best of 5s, you're really going to see Engage get picked. Like, not only just support, but jungle as well. Like, Sejuani's are going to be gone, Maokai's are going to be gone, all these classic Go buns. And in those type of situations is where I actually favor FlyQuest. I think if Cloud9 are going to win, it's got to be like game 3 or 4 in the 5-game Fearless. I think FlyQuest will have their number if it goes later in Fearless draft. But I do expect it to be those 2 teams. Although 100 Thieves, they've been a wild card so far, so it could be 100 Thieves. Does that change your expectation, Cubby? Like if it's 100 Thieves versus Cloud9 instead of FlyQuest? Because I think FlyQuest is a better matchup versus C9 personally.
I think I might favor C9 over 100 Thieves, but
yeah,
I don't know. Like for me, it's Quid has been playing so goddamn good that like I'm like, oh, he can't keep on being this good, right? And then he just keeps on being that good. And it like I would favor like I think Quid has just been like out of this world. So I think if Quid is like continues this just like incredible form that he's in, maybe.
No way.
No way.
No
you got
way.
C9.
I don't think 100 Thieves is going.
I'd have to resort to my tier list here, and I did put C9 over 100, so maybe I have to
I'm just
maybe
roll all the
should
tape out and
revise
go with
your priors whenever we get more data.
I'm trying to give David Shynock more content to have Travis.
Oh God, you mentioned his name again. Now he's gonna. Here comes the Twitter clip. Him just sitting there like a fucking TikTok reaction streamer. All right. I guess he is a TikTok reaction streamer. Thank you so much to our good caller Rob for the take. What do you if it's not C9, Rob, what do you think is going to happen?
If it's not C9, I mean, I think Fly is probably the next best team. I'd be pretty shocked if 100 Thieves made it to the finals and Teal's still looking really shaky. I think it's right now I'd pretty much call it a 2-horse race. Not that the other teams are like terrible, but I think they're just a step above.
And anything else you want to add for C9 hopefuls before we give you shoutouts?
Yeah, I think you guys brought up some good points about, especially if it's like a late game Fearless. But Vulcan, he has looked very good recently on Engage, but I'm still like, to me, this like reunion has given me like vibes of some of the past great C9 teams, and I know Vulcan was, pretty solid when we were in like the Yuumi kind of meta too, and I know we don't want to see that, but if it gets down to it, I think he's probably got a deep champion pool. I know Blabber has a deep champion pool, so I think there's still a chance, and I think even just on skill alone, they could pull it out.
How salty does everyone get if the final ends up being 3 games? And we never get more than 3 games in our.
It's only best of 5. That would suck.
It would just
honestly, Travis, we might have a call about that.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, we don't have anyone. Oh, I guess we have 3 people in the waiting room, so we'll see what happens. All right, Rob. Thanks so much for the call. Anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah, just shout out all my friends. Shout out you guys. Travis, I know it's lonely out there. I'm sure you'll find someone eventually. Everyone have a good night.
Thanks for calling in. That was awesome.
That was low blow.
Bowen, thank you for the 500 bits. Really appreciate it. That's really nice. Ratty, thank you for becoming a member over on YouTube. Corey, thank you for becoming a YouTube member as well. And let's take a quick break to talk about an amazing partner that I have named PrizePicks. They're a fantastic partner. I'm so glad to have them as a partner. You can never have a great partner unless you have PrizePicks backing. I don't know where I'm going with this. Listen, PrizePicks is the best place to win cash while watching sports or esports. You can basically, if you're a new user, by the way, they have this really cool thing where you will they will give you $50 when you play your first $5 lineup. Win or lose, you'll get $50 for just playing. Again, that you need to use the link that I have there. We also have a code, which is Travis, but there's a link in the chat over on Twitch and on YouTube, and there's also a link in the description, which you can use if you're watching the VOD. And it's available in over 40 states, including California and Texas. So this weekend, whenever you are watching the LTA finals, whatever they're calling it, the LTA championships, the split one
winners. Yep.
Winners, whatever it is, you can go play PrizePicks. It's actually a really fun thing. The way it works, it's very simple. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats to lock in your lineup. So you can go over there and you can just be like, hey, I disagree with Travis. I'm a big Hunter T believer. I believe that Busio is going to get X number of assists. He's going to get more than that, actually. And then you say, but I am not a believer in, I don't know, FlyQuest. Or sorry, on, what did I say, Busio? I believe that
Ayla on 100 Thieves. Yep,
Ayla, my brain is breaking right now because of what happened to me before this sponsor shout out. I think that Ayla is going to get going to get more than number of support assists. I think that Busio is going to get less, and so that is my prediction for this. You go in, that's your lineup that you've created, and you end up finding out if you win or lose. Again, you can get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win. You just get the $50. It's guaranteed. So it's pretty cool that they're doing this. Signing up is a really, really great way to support the show. Please only do it if you think you can do so responsibly or you're in the position to do so. I'm not trying to get anybody into a tough spot right now, but if playing $5 on something like this is something that would make the weekend more interesting to you, or you think that you're smarter than other people, go give it a try. It's really neat that they do this. They do all sorts of other cool promos, like they've got Taco Tuesdays, they've got Flex Fridays, a lot of different fun little things that they run over at PrizePicks. So pretty neat. It's available not just for League of Legends, but you can also play it for other esports or other sports as well. Thank you so much to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support.
Speaking of promos, Travis, and PrizePicks, anything else you want to promote?
Anything else I want to promote?
Yeah, possibly involving PrizePicks.
What are you asking? I don't know what you're asking, Cubby.
The other group chat we have going.
Oh, the fact that we're going to try to do a show?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm nervous about it because we were supposed to do a show last week, and then we had some issues that prevented us from doing the show. So I wasn't going to necessarily promote because I want to make sure that we can do it this week. But we're going to try to do a live stream later on this week, probably on Thursday, where we'll be talking about some of our predictions for this weekend, specifically as it relates to PrizePicks stuff. So if you want to tune into that, well, that would also go up on the YouTube channel. So stay tuned to see if that ends up happening this week. We're going to try to make it work, but I will be on the road, so that will also make it a little bit more complicated, but we're trying to do it this week. All right. Thank you so much to PrizePicks for sponsoring the show.
Next caller.
Let's get into the next call. Thank you to Buff Mothman for the tier 1, Shavul for the tier 1, 51 months, and Game or GF for the 41 months. Appreciate everybody for supporting the show. We got a couple callers left We're going to probably go kind of quickly through these because we got 3 to go. But we got Shogo here. Shogo, where are you calling from?
He's here.
How you doing? I'm in Oxford, Mississippi right now.
In Mississippi. And
Oh,
what
yeah.
did you have a take for this? Or are we doing an? I don't know if you developed a take for this or if Cubby and Kangas
I don't
did
know.
not do a
I
good
think
enough job of.
okay. I think
preparing
that
you for
in
it.
a stream team with Doublelift is really positive. I think more teams should be streaming scrims, especially NACL, since one of the biggest issues with NACL is it's so hard to attract fans because there's so limited exposure to players' personalities. I think streaming POV scrims is one of like the best ways to do it. I've been doing it personally, and it's been a lot of fun, especially like scrimming Doublelift. You know, I've been a fan for like 12 years. I told him that, and he was like, "Yo, I'm a big fan of you as well. Like, you completely gaffed me."
That's
And
awesome.
like he said one of the biggest reasons he wanted to do this is like to get more exposure for players that are playing in tier 2 or tier 3, and like streaming the scrims against them like helps more people get eyes on them, which I think is really cool.
I don't want to do too much conversation around like stream scrims because obviously we've talked about it a lot, but I do really appreciate your call out that like especially in tier 2, that type of stuff, it's not a bad idea, especially when there's not any like active competitions happening at the moment.
Yeah.
Since you just played Doublelift's streamed scrim dream team, what do you make of them?
I think they are very chaotic right now, but like obviously they all have played competitive at different times with different teams, different staff, so they all have like different ways they look at the game. So it makes sense that it would take a few weeks to adjust to each other. Like I know Speaka is like super vocal and has a very specific way he wants to play the game. I actually watched their POV later on, and I was like really surprised by how well TF Blade like conforms with the rest of the team.
He's
and
gonna
I
be
think,
good for them once he figures it out.
I think he's a very talented player. So like he has a very good baseline to go from. And I think because the team is players that he respects a lot, it's going to be a little different from teams he's had in the past with like Tarzan and stuff like that, right? Because it's all players that he has a lot of respect for. Like he knows that they're very good and experienced. So he will likely be like less argumentative, more willing to learn. So I definitely don't disagree with that. I was skeptical at first, but now I'm a little bit more of a believer in the TF Blade pick.
It was fun to watch. Like I was mostly on your guys' POVs, but obviously, I mean, it was day 1 for them, and like part of it is like you've competed in multiple team shows. Sometimes you just gotta figure out how to play and how to win with different groups of players. Also, like I don't know the form of everyone in that lobby. Like I was on Biofrost's POV for one game. Like for me, it didn't look like Biofrost like in the form I'm used to seeing him in. I thought Bobelter was like in pretty good form, right? And then Doublelift too, like. Whenever Doublelift plays the game and takes it seriously, like he's always an elite player, but I don't know like where he's at in that process of trying to get back to that, right? So it is a little bit tricky. But yeah, what was it like for you? I mean, Shogi, you've competed a lot, like been on stage, you've won CBLOL back to back as well. Like how did this compare for you and some of your other experiences being able to go up against these guys and, you know, be able to stream it and have a lot of eyes on you?
It was a big privilege. Like I told him that. And I told him to like thank Lena for me for like setting it up. I was really appreciative of just the opportunity to play these guys. Like these are all players I look up to. And then this is gonna be my first split in an ACL, so it's finally, you know, I've been.
I know we finally got you in there.
Yep.
Yeah,
I've
been gatekept for so long because of like residency issues. So the only way for me to play an ACL is to participate as like with my collegiate team. So kind of like Yuji does it, but I'm a bit late to the party because we like Ole Miss just partnered with Supernova. So it's like this is going to be my first split. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I look forward competing, and yeah, keep your eyes on Supernova. It's going to be great.
Oh, will do. I got to ask though, cuz you mentioned that, you know, Doublelift's like one of the GOATs, somebody you looked up to. First off, I want to hear your thoughts of like just kind of the emotions you went through facing it, but more so than that, if you've been watching for that long, what are things that you learned from Doublelift? Are there any like specific moments or things that you watched him do and were like, that's something that you can apply to your gameplay?
Right, not just that, like over time too.
Yeah, because he played for so long.
I think like the biggest thing, like the most respectable thing is for me, like someone being already at the top and still grinding hard and working hard, even when like his spot is already secure, like he has nothing to worry about. Like you win so many LCS championships and still grind so hard. Like I think that's very impressive. I feel the same way about like Core JJ and like people I see in my solo queue lobbies so often, even though they're like elite players already. I have immense respect for that because they could easily just be sitting on a paycheck.
Yeah, the work ethic.
Yeah.
I am curious how much you feel like those guys competing would be like a lure to other players, because I've worried for a while that there's not much incentive for players to try to pursue a professional career anymore in competitive League of Legends in North America, because we keep cutting jobs and we keep cutting salaries and we keep cutting world spots and MSI spots and all that stuff. It's just like we're really losing a lot of the incentives to try to compete. So do you feel like those guys competing changes much? Like does that open up opportunities or make people potentially want to play more?
No, I think it's good for the league, but I don't think it's like a game changer. I've been a big advocate for collegiate for a while, not just because, you know, I'm in my 4th year and like almost done with my degree, but like I think this is one of the best ways to realistically get value out of your League of Legends skills. Because if you're just like grinding 12 hours a day on the hope that maybe like you will get picked up for a good NECL team, have a really good showing, you know, play for 2 splits, maybe get picked up for one of the lower tier like LCS teams, and then have one bad split and get dropped like a hot potato. Like I think that's such a gamble to make with 4 years of your time. You might as well get an education while you're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't think the two are like mutually exclusive. I'm a 4.0 student. I stream like 20 hours a week at least. We scrim 4 or 5 times a week. Like there is time to do things if you are disciplined enough. Like it's not playing solo queue for 12 hours a day instead of 8 is not going to be the big difference maker. At some point there's diminishing returns.
Yeah, you gotta like getting a workout in is like way more valuable for that 9th hour than, you know,
right.
playing the 9th game, right? No, that's good. I mean, ever since the NACL got changed and not everyone was on California minimum salary, which means like you were on a salary, yeah, hard agree, right? Like just go to university and get a lot of value while you're able to pursue this, and this enables you to like pursue university, right? Because at least in your scenario, right, like you, most of the team, I don't know what the scholarship status is, but like there are scholarships there, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
I come from nothing. Like I don't have anyone giving me handouts for my schooling, or like I would straight up not be able to afford going to school if it wasn't for League. I also am international, so like it's the only reason I'm in this country is because I chose to go to university with my League of Legends skills, which I'm extremely grateful for.
Well, it's great to have you be able to call in. Thank you for the raid earlier, and it's neat to hear, you know, your stance. How much work do you think Double F has before he can actually get to being competitive with you?
With me, I don't know. With the rest of the NECL AD carries, maybe a few weeks.
He'll catch up in no time.
Thanks so much for the call.
Actually,
and anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Shout out Ole Miss, Supernova, my teammates, my staff. Everyone's doing great. And you guys.
Have a good one.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you, Shogo.
Yeah, best of luck this split. Excited to see you compete.
Thank you. See you guys.
It's about time, yeah. For background, in 22, going into 23, I helped with TL and their tryout, and like Shogo was, if he didn't have the import status, like he was always someone that a lot of the GMs and coaches team would be like a top half NACL AD. And so for him to like finally be able to be an NACL, he has been a player that's been good enough. And like Ole Miss, even on an OQ team, was in the promotion relegation tournament for NACL too. So he is a good player. I'm excited to have him in NACL, right? And it's like way too late. But yeah.
Well, it looks like we got 2 more quick calls to get through, and then we'll be winding down the show.
Sweet.
Off Cubby goes. No new subs or memberships to shout out. So Kangas, you been playing any good video games lately?
I mean, Civ 7 for sure. I've been playing a lot of that. I recently got into the TFT Legacy set. Have you tried that out? Are you a TFT gamer?
I have played a lot of TFT over the years. I've not played the Legacy set. This is like the throwback set that they're bringing back,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah.
They brought back, I think it's like the third set or something. It was a couple years ago. I think it's really cool though.
It's like
I hope that they keep doing that.
The one where it's like a lot of the Lunar New Year skins, I think.
Yeah, there's like Mythic and Divine and like all these ones. I'm pretty sure it is Lunar New Year themed. I'm having a lot of fun going back and re-experiencing that because my brain, I play a lot of TFT, so I'm like super caught up on the current meta, but then going back and playing that one, I suck at it. And it's fun. I don't know if other people feel the same. I love it when I go into a game like that. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on because it just like activates my brain to be like, I want to get better. Like I want to learn how to get in this format. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. Also, shout out to Cubby who got me to get Advanced Tactics. Did you ever play the Game Boy Advance game? Advanced Tactics? Or Advanced Wars. Advanced Wars.
Dude, I have not played that.
Okay, Cubby got me to do that. It's kind of like a Fire Emblem mechanics of a game, but without the story, basically. But really, really fun.
There's a great campaign.
I've been grinding the hell out of that, dude. I probably have like 40 hours in that game since you and I played together.
Yeah,
bad.
Kangas came over one night, and I was like, we were in the process of kind of moving, so I'm like, hey, like I don't have a lot to do, like, just like want to fire this up, right? And he's like, okay. So he played, and then like the next night, he's like, dude, can I come over and can we play more?
I wanted to come over and do more.
That's sick. That's such an old school vibe too. Like, come over, play a game. Let's play some more of it. That's awesome.
Well, okay. You might appreciate this, Travis. Did you ever play 007 GoldenEye on N64?
Yes.
So I introduced Cubby might have played it like once or twice. I don't remember, but like Mark Rafa had never played it, and our friend.
I'm sure it came out before Cubby was born. So
yeah, and so I grew up playing it because my brother is 8 years older than I am, so he played those games. So I got to experience like the games that he played when I was growing up. So I knew about it, but I was teaching them how to like strafe and aim, and like, oh, don't like try and actually aim with a reticle. It's not gonna work. Just let auto aim take over. And like we're having a lot of fun with that too. So I've been having a lot of fun with couch co-op stuff. Me and Cubby have been doing that the past couple of months. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Hey, we got wroadie here. Wroadie, where are you calling from?
Culver City, California.
Wroadie, what's up?
California. What do you want to talk about on the show?
I will preface my take with saying this is my opinion as a fan of the esport and just a regular human being. But I believe that the current implementation...
Because we should explain that you may or may not work on the social media side of the LTA.
Yeah. Yep. I make funny TikToks for LTA sometimes, yeah. My take is that the current implementation of Fearless, which is the full Fearless mode, is fantastic in BO3s, but has its weaknesses in BO5s, and that really showed in T1 HLE and HLE Genji.
Yeah, do you want to explain a little bit about what's going on there for those that don't keep up with the more international leagues?
Absolutely. I think for anyone that watched HLE Genji or T1 HLE, you would see a significant drop in game quality in Game 4 and Game 5, just from what you're used to from those teams. When they're forced onto some picks they're not comfortable on, which I think that there's some level of, that's really cool to see sometimes, but I don't think that that's something you want to see all year round in every single best of 5 ever. And I think that it'd be really cool if there was like a variation of it that worked better for BO5.
So
I kind of wish that there were more, like one of the bigger reasons I wish there were more best of 5s in this current format is because I do think people would see some of the flaws with Fearless best of 5 that they don't see now, and so they're just kind of angry because they're like, oh, this is not as interesting as I'd like it to be. And I do think like there will be a call for like everything to be Fearless next year. And I don't know if that's as good in best of 5s. Mark got a lot of shit for doing an interview where he got, the headline of it was him saying that like he doesn't want to see Faker. I think he's even said it on the show before. He doesn't want to see Faker on some random ass champion in Game 5 in some pivotal series. And I think the subreddit was not as happy about that, but it sounds like that's kind of like the weird low quality stuff where like you end up with game quality dropping off a lot over the course of a 5-game series.
I do want to add actually. So again, my prediction with like Fearless, what fans would think is that they would enjoy it, but then like the more that you have it, the more it's like, oh, like a couple like game quality is not going to be as high because you're not playing picks, and also in practice, like you're not getting the same practice of all those picks, the same way as like how teams practice, where it's just 5 blocks where everything's up, right? I think that part of it is fun. It is fun to see the game get broken. It is fun to see like wild things happen. I actually really like the solution though that we had in NACL last year, which was for Game 4, you did not get a second round of bans. So you got the first 3 bans for each team, and then it was like old school drafting, right? No second phase of bans from there. And then Game 5, you had no bans. So like Skarner has been the pick that everyone has deemed to be incredibly OP. Pretty much like you have to find a way to let Skarner through if you don't want to deal with it for the rest of the series, right? Because like at some point it's going to be up. And then in Game 5, like I will say that it was a little bit unbalanced because then whoever got blue side just had like massive edge. The big OP pick was Senna, but even that we saw people actually find solutions to beat Senna. Seraphine like emerged as a really good answer in NACL, and that's something where I kind of enjoyed the metagame of that. So I think there are ways to maybe free it up more in Game 4 or 5, where a few more champions are on the table. But it's funny because like your take with this is interesting because like I've said I don't really feel like Fearless kicks in until Games 4 or 5. Because like for most of the time in Games 1, 2, and 3, you could be like, oh, I can see these drafts happening without Fearless actually being a thing. Whereas Games 4 and 5, like that's where you get the crazy stuff. Or like of course a lot of people are mentioning the HLE T1 angle. I gotta say, T1 for me played that draft way better than what I thought, because I saw Olaf in that draft. Like I immediately knew it's just like, okay, Olaf's just Thanos. Like if you get Olaf to 2-3 items, like that game's just over. And that is what happens sometimes in those games, because you just end up finding picks or finding angles where like, okay, these champs are unbeatable. Like I was going to teams in NACL last year and like telling them, guys, you have to find a strat for Acel, because there's going to be a draft in Fearless where you just can't break Acel and then he just wins you the game. He didn't end up being played a lot, but that was like one of the theories that I had, right? Of a pick that just gets really, really OP later on when some of the more well-rounded champions or tools are off the table early on. So, yeah, I kind of find it interesting. Like you're at least, we have a similar take at it, but yours is more focused on like game quality and so like actually feeling the Fearless, right? So yeah.
I'll clarify here a little bit. I'm trying not to get one guided by chat, but there's a lot of people just saying that like, oh, Fearless is really good. Actually,
welcome to my.
That's not the take
life.
Here. I think Fearless is fantastic, and that's my take. Is it really shines at full Fearless shines in BO3s when it's forcing adaptations throughout Game 2 and Game 3. But as soon as you get to Game 4 and Game 5, I think that you've already like reached diminishing returns on how much like variation you're forcing, and then it's just like people playing champions they're not used to and trying to put together comps that they're not used to. You can't like assemble those same like team comps based around certain identities, like Engage or Poke, when you're getting to Game 4 and Game 5 in Fearless, and it becomes a little bit of a fiesta, I think. Which is fine and fun in like regular season here and there, like playoffs or whatever, but I don't know that I want to see that in Worlds Finals. That's all I'm saying.
And I can say that it's interesting that they made that call. I didn't expect them to make that call. I don't know, Cubby, if you have that same opinion, that we went from NACL kind of being the guinea pig of like, okay, let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Let's see if we can handle this and like what the audience thinks. People liked it. And then immediately was like full Fearless, which is different than what we did. It's way simpler to explain to an audience what full Fearless is, because it's just like, oh, it's just if a champion's begged, you can't play it again. As opposed to these stipulations that we had where it was kind of annoying every time to be like, all right, full Fearless, but best of 5. Now it changes on Games 4 and 5, and you have to explain all that and take the time on broadcast, and like it can take a while to get people caught up. But I do agree that it gets a little messy later in the series, but honestly, I still love it. I think it's fun when it's messy. I'm not like a purist, though, that is here to watch League just for the good gameplay. And I think it's a very purist argument. The people that want to just watch the best players play the best are the ones that usually are the most critical of Fearless.
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with this moving forward, because I think that Fearless needs to exist throughout a season. Like if Riot had no Fearless for 2026, I would be frustrated with it. Right? And I think every fan would be frustrated with that too. But do I think it should be for the entire calendar year? That's a different discussion, right? Like you change the history of the game if you're going to award a world championship to someone in this format versus other formats, right? Are we okay with making that decision, right? I think that it's going to be really interesting to see what happens moving forward with that when we have the grandeur of MSI and Worlds coming up. And if it were to be just this completely different format, are we all okay with that? And how does it change the game? That's a really big decision to make that Riot's going to face. But yeah, I was not surprised that Fearless was a part of this year. I actually think the way they did it was really good. And I'm excited that I was wrong about what fans would think about it. I'm glad that fans enjoy it. Again, like my disenjoyment of it was game quality, which is something that wroadie's bringing up here, which I find interesting, right? Just the fact that he feels like game 4 and 5 it's less, and yeah, I felt that way too. And I will say that looking back, I think that there are a lot of games that have been really one-sided and uncompetitive, especially looking at LPL, a region that I've had to pay more attention to this year, just given the unofficial project with Kelsey and that team. Like, there are a lot of really one-sided games. I feel like fans are like, oh, I'm okay with this because we had weird chances we don't see when the game actually wasn't that competitive in the first place. So I find that dichotomy interesting.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Riot does with Fearless going forward, because it doesn't feel like there was any kind of pushback of, it seems like people only really got excited about what they saw and they want more, and they're frustrated that there was not more. So I wonder how much Riot will move in that direction, and I wonder what the long-term ramifications of that will be if they do, because it is the type of thing where it's hard to, you're usually, every time you add it, you have to add it to like an entire split or do something crazy with it. So yeah, I mean, we could just say split 2 is Fearless in LTA, at least until playoffs. Yeah. Fearless best of ones. All right, wroadie, thanks so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Follow at LTA North on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, YouTube.
Do it.
That's all.
Go do it right now.
Blue Sky?
Thanks for all your work, wroadie.
Catch you later.
Blue Sky? That was a question. Wroadie, answer it.
He didn't say anything. He's intentionally dodging it.
That's a whole other take we could launch into. We don't have time for that one.
I have actually pinged wroadie that question because I have friends that have migrated.
He intentionally did not hear me ask the question. All right, catch you later.
Yeah.
Thanks, Fred.
All right, we've got one more call to go. It's kind of a longer episode this time. Probably won't stream too much long afterwards because I have been pretty terrified that over the course of this episode I've been starting to feel like I have a cold and I have to travel tomorrow. So that is not something I'm thrilled about. I might have to spend $75 to get Delta to move my flight to later, because I don't actually think I have anything until it might be kind of nice to sleep in. We're crowdfunding right now. We're doing an immediate subs and members drive to crowdfund so that I can cover the $75 to move my flight to later in the day. All right. Cubby's not back yet. I usually try to make a joke like that and then go, all right, and then switch into the caller for comedic.
You're usually really good about that, too.
Yeah,
it's
Cubby is the one that's letting me down right now. So
this is not on you.
Stuck in this in-between stage where I just have to keep filling and vamping air.
Okay,
hey,
well,
look.
You know what? You asked me a question. Let me ask you a question. Travis, what games have you been playing lately?
All right,
are
our
you
next caller is here. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
It was a nice try, Kangas. We Just Play is here. We Just Play. I believe you called in last week, right?
I sure did. I was your first caller, and now I'm your last caller.
Book ending it.
What do you want to talk about, or where are you calling from?
I am calling from Chicago.
What do you want to talk about on the show?
So this week, I'm actually calling about the games that were played. So woohoo, no Riot is evil stuff. I am kind of continuing the call from earlier about the whole anger and the feelings of justified anger about the merge based off of this combined tournament. And then really my take is that this tournament is functionally useless for LTA North teams because as far as I'm concerned, especially after watching all of the matches, it really seems like it's only good to be used as practice for the LTA North teams before they get to what I would consider real competition. Because minus the Team Liquid best of 3, which was something, the other 3 best of 3s were pretty well handled by 100 Thieves and FlyQuest and C9. So only TL really showed to be consistently struggling. And so, yeah,
Well, it's tough. I'll hop in here first as well. It's tough first off to hear that because for a broadcaster, our goal, I don't know if I speak for everyone on the broadcast, but my goal was to make it feel special. So I'm sad that it didn't feel like anything special for you and that it was just kind of like a roadblock on the way to the LTA North teams playing each other. But I think in a way, that's just how the format kind of worked its way out. It's tough when you're trying to combine two regions in such a quick manner because, again, the turnaround from when this was announced to when we're actually executing it is so short that we just weren't really able to like build up any kind of rivalry because, let's be honest, we really didn't have a rivalry between North and South conferences before this. Unless you want to count last year Worlds where R7 beat 100 Thieves, I guess maybe you could say that kind of planted a seed.
A lot of people were like, this is good for what's going on next year, Like,
yeah.
I mean, Kangas, to be honest, the original first part of my take that I was talking to Cubby about was that this basically confirmed everyone's assumed judgment of what this merge was going to look like, which is it's incredibly uncompetitive. It's boring to watch because it's basically like watching the play-ins at Worlds, which is boring as hell already. And now it's just, instead of all of the minor regions of the world, now we just have this one that we've kind of been forced to absorb. And by the way, like, my critique is nothing about you guys on the broadcast because, like, you guys got to do what you got to do. Yeah. But, the game quality is just not there. And it seems like such a huge waste of time and money for a tournament that everyone was already thinking this is going to suck. And then it is sucking. Like, the second half of the tournament is all one region. At least at Worlds, you can get LCK and LPL or something.
Brazil Roadshow, huh? Not bad.
True. Brazil Road. And again, I don't want to sound like the guy that's trying to convince you to make good of a bad thing. Because I understand the community sentiment that this is not a positive change. I'm not trying to change anyone's mind on that. My perspective is always just try and make the best of the situation. And in my opinion, it's a really cool moment for the Brazilian crowd. Yes, all their teams got smashed, but at least they got a kind of international event. I don't know if this is still fully Riot globally recognized as international because it's one region playing across conferences, but they haven't hosted other teams in quite a while. So it was cool for them to get this opportunity. So from their perspective, I think it's very different from the North American fans' perspective. So I hear what you're saying, and it's a valid point to make. And from this point forward, I just hope that at least the rest of the show isn't impacted from it not being here in the Riot Games arena. I think that's the biggest concern that I have is now that all the South teams are eliminated and it's in the Southern Conference, in the Southern region, will the fans still show up and make noise during the games? I hope they do. And I trust they will, but I think that's a bigger concern is it was one weekend of tough games. Now going forward with all the 4 teams in the North, is the broadcast going to take a hit because it's just a library in the audience?
Well, and this kind of reminds me of how last year, Riot hobbled Summer Split, and all of them, for the first time in 500 years, it felt like the LCS had momentum in terms of positive thoughts going into the Summer Split, and then we had that really awkward Valorant induced break, and now it seems like we're having the same kind of scenario but a League induced break because all the teams that didn't go don't play until April, and then it just everything about this seems dumb. And it's like I said, it's not that the broadcast itself is bad, it's just it seems like a big waste of time for both regions. If you're gonna have it be a 2 geographic region kind of conglomerate, then cut out the winter part or whatever they call it nowadays, whatever this is considered.
Split one. And then it's not winter in the South,
Oh yeah, that's right. South. Duh. Okay, so split one. Okay, just kind of have it be its own little sequestered thing in each region, and then keep that North and South thing that they're doing in split 2 I don't remember when it is.
They don't
Split
even
3,
play each
yeah.
other until split 3 again. So there's this, and then the end of the split 3.
Split 2,
Yeah.
where we each our first seed goes to MSI.
Yeah, you have to figure out who's
Yes,
going to
yes,
first
yes.
stand from Brazil, which is why
Mhm.
you have this thing. So
Gotcha. I
Yeah.
mean, go. Sorry, Travis.
Oh, I was going to say, I mean, I know we've talked a little bit about how this current situation sucks, so I don't want to harp on it too much longer, but especially towards the end of the show. But yeah,
If you want, I do have a positive spin on this to keep up the
I thought this was
positivity
going to be a positive
stream.
spin because at the start of the
It's the
call, you were
positive
like,
show. Yeah.
"Oh, this is
Okay.
not a negative thing." Go ahead.
Okay, so the positive spin that I can put on this is that, like Kangas was talking about earlier, sorry, Cubby, if it was you instead and I just misheard. Since,
I'll
you
take
know, since we've already gotten to this point where this is set in stone and there's probably no undoing this combination, I really, really, really hope that Riot is taking a mountain worth of notes to fix the big mountain of issues that have been cropping up and just trying to figure out a new way to get this figured out for next year, whether it's a scheduling thing or something. I don't honestly know. Unfortunately, I don't have a suggestion for them to use, but just at least they can use this as a way to move forward with it and make it continuously better. You know, I know Travis was saying earlier about how the LCK is like, oh yeah, we're just kind of considering this a test run anyway. And I feel like that's what Riot should be using this as well. They should, like, even if they don't say it out loud, they should internally just being like, yeah, this was like a test dummy, man, whatever.
Again, I do want to credit LCK because I feel like some of the teams are the ones that are actually pushing that, not the league itself. Though I actually think that it's mostly like the teams doing that and treating the split like that, which again, given that it is a different format than the rest of the year, I've been calling this a novelty split. I think a kickoff split is good. I appreciate that, and especially because they still are required to have challengers teams over there. Being able to incorporate some of the top talent from there and actually having them play is pretty exciting for me, right? Like Pungyoung got to play. He was a player when I was going through VODs for like Saint and Loki. I was really impressed by. I'm really glad that like they actually were able to utilize some of the talent and utilize the Fearless format to like make this a really unique split over there that does like feel really fun. And we'll again push back. I think the format is actually fine/okay. I think that the results hurt it. And if I were to make a change, it would be have the North and South compete from day one. And that's the issue, is that it felt like it was a build-up or a culmination, and then we just didn't get the payoff because the games were one-sided, right? So, yeah.
I appreciate the call, and it is very much appreciated. wejustplay, so thank you for calling in. Anything you want to shout out here at the end?
Nothing, just like last week. Shout out for my partner because it's really late here in Chicago and he's hearing me scream from another room. So hope I didn't wake him up.
Well,
and shout out to you guys for the show every week. Thank you.
Can't wait to see you at MagicCon this weekend.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Wait, are you gonna go?
I'm gonna try.
Okay, I was mostly joking because I remember last week you were saying you were probably not gonna go, but if you do and you go, say hi. Catch you next time.
See ya.
All right. We did not talk as much about the double F thing, which I wanted to make sure we talked about on this episode. I know we had Shogo call in. I know there was another take that was kind of similar to Shogo's. So let's talk a little bit about it here at the end, especially because I teased it in the titles, and then people are going to be angry if we didn't. Kangas, what do you think of the double lift news?
Well, first off, I like it. I think it's really cool that he's following. I don't know how closely this was. I haven't talked to Peter about it, about like when he decided to make the move to try and build the team. But it seems like it's a response to Los Ratones and like what's going on over in EU. But I think it's cool that we have like a streamer team, ex-pros coming on and actually competing. I got to watch their streamed scrims. I was co-streaming some of that on my channel, and they have a lot of work to do to get good. A lot of those guys have been out of practice for a bit. So hopefully they are able to actually compete in the open qualifier. Shout out to the open qualifiers. They'll be coming up in like 3 weeks time. I want to say it's the 12th of March. Is that it, Cubby?
I want to say it's a little bit earlier, but I think it's the first week of March.
So I'd be the 1st or 2nd. Otherwise, 8th and 9th. I don't remember exactly. So okay,
we have people in the chat who should be able to answer this question for us. So, but it's
yeah.
I should know the answer, to be fair, but
they got time to get better. I think that they're going to be fine by the time they get into the OQs. That was their first time like doing the public scrims, and they still had bright spots. Po Belter and Spica, I think in particular, were still playing well, right? Even though Spica was getting a little gap by Keel, he bounced back later. I think it's great for the region. I've been a Doublelift fan. I've been one of the people arguing that Doublelift should be the NA GOAT. I know a lot of people say no, it's Bjergsen.
He is the singular NA GOAT. You were correct.
I think Doublelift's the NA GOAT. I honestly do. And I will argue with people that say Bjergsen. I will respect their argument because that's the other name in the conversation. But for me, it's Doublelift. So I think it's cool that he's coming back and making
Bjergsen is there because he was well liked. Doublelift's resume is just better.
He won on 3 different teams. He's got the record for
keep
titles.
It on. I mean, listen, nobody loves Peter more than I, but try to keep on topic here at the end since we're in mega overtime on the show. So
okay.
You overall think this is good?
I think it's good for the region. I think it's great for the league because I have heard the voices say, wah, he doesn't have any rookie players on the team. Wah, it's not promoting new players. That's not the purpose of this team. And think of the positives of this team. What the purpose is to bring eyes to the open qualifiers, to bring eyes to tier 2. People are going to show up and watch those games. And then if they see Doublelift get smashed by somebody like Shogo, well, now you know who Shogo is. And that's going to be somebody who otherwise would probably never have known who that player is. That is good for the region, and I'm happy for that.
What Kangas says in the back half, like, for both of us, it's sad, but it's true, right? I've spent my whole casting career, like, trying to build up the people that make it to LCS. And it's, like, no matter what I say or, like, promote, it doesn't matter as much. Like to fans unless they see a big name get beaten by one of the new players, right? I also think, I think it's fun. Like, this is a team where if they make it and if they go far, it adds interest to the league. We've seen the success that NLC's had. Like, for me, there's really no downside for this. Again, like, I don't know what, like Doublelift, obviously, anyone who is competing, I assume they're going to compete to, go as hard as they can. The fact that Los Bratones are doing as well as they are is pretty impressive, but this does come with the added golden nugget at the end where they can actually make LCS under their own org, which would be crazy, right? If they actually were to go that hard.
Yeah, we'd have to see if they would keep competing at that point in time. Like, I can imagine a world where, like, the worst case scenario for these guys is they, like, qualify into the LTA and they're like, oh god, now are we gonna have to actually do this? I
will say,
I saw this in Twitch chat before. They said TSM sponsors the team. They re-qualify into the LTA. Yikes. TSM's back, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. I will say that, like, if that happens, then I'd be pretty mad, right? And if there's anything that goes on where, like, they play to not try and qualify, like, I'd also be pretty mad. I think, like, the discussion of whether they will or won't is a different one, and there are other things like Doublelift was talking about or promoting, like doing scrim like champ A to Z challenges. Like, I think that's a giant fucking waste of time. And if I was another team in NACL or even OQs, I wouldn't even think about scrimming anyone trying to do that stuff, right? If they want to do that, then they're more than welcome to if they can find a team to actually do that. But I will lose respect for you if you're a team that actually signs up to scrim against them for exposure bucks like that, right? You're just wasting your own goddamn time.
No, disagree. Hard disagree. That's the wrong take, Cubby. Eyes are more important than performance, or not performance, like practice, I guess is the way to put it. The sad truth of it is if the community gets behind you, if people talk about you, if they make posts about you on Reddit, look at Surdy. Look at what he accomplished, Cubby. When did he finally get people paying attention to him?
See,
when he hit goddamn first place on the ranked solo queue ladder and had a Reddit post pop off about him. That's what gets you exposure. So if you scrim Doublelift's team and crush him, that's going to do better for your chances as a player than winning NACL. I'm just going to say it.
Seriously, I mean, like for me, that just goes against like every bone in my body. And I was also up here like when that happened, being mad about how it took that for Surdy to actually be noticed as a player, right?
It's frustrating, and I'm not saying it's correct that that is how the world works, but that's how the system works right now. So I think every team should be signing up to publicly stream their scrims against Doublelift's team. If you can get a chance to, take it.
If they're going as hard as possible, then yeah, I 100% agree. If not, then I think it's a waste of time.
I mean, there's no world in which they go as hard as possible because...
Well, it's like what we talked about with Los Ratones, right? Like when you are streaming, regardless of how seriously you're taking it, you cannot operate at 100% capacity, right? Like you're putting 5% of your effort into actually running the content,
practicing 12 hours a day, Cubby. If they were interested in playing in the grind, these guys would be trying to compete, like get spots on LTA teams. Like the fact that they aren't, I think means that you're not going to see them putting in 100%.
I mean, if you want to know, like the actual sad reality is that they actually might be able to practice more because they can support themselves.
True.
Playing the game and doing content, where a lot of these players like are in school or have secondary jobs and may not actually be able to go as hard as these guys who are making their living off the game. Like if you want the real sad reality, you know.
Well, okay, Cubby, I will say. Oh yeah, go for it.
I was going to ask Cubby, is there a world where they don't make it through open qualifiers?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't know what the other teams are. There are a couple teams in there that actually look pretty strong. I'd have to. We are waiting for all the announcements. Also, a couple of the strong teams are actually like already in. So, like for example, Cincinnati Fear, they sold their spot to Polestar, and that Polestar roster, like if they were in OQs, then I would be like they're a shoo-in to beat the Doublelift team.
That roster,
but they're now in NACL, right? So, and like for me, that roster has 3 players in Kryra, Toasty, and Cryogen, who I think like can be LTA players in the future, and Tenacity and Spawn, who are from like familiar names, and I still actually think really highly of, especially Tenacity and Spawn. So yeah, Whoople's in the chat. There are 3 spots. We kind of have to see the rest of the OQ rosters and how they pan out. I do think that a couple of these strongest rosters are already in NACL, so just curious to see what OQs look like. And hey, we get surprises every once in a while. Like there was a team called Ducky Getters where their support Hiccup, she only played Enchantresses. Mm-hmm. And so they ran these like really interesting strats to kind of abuse that and Enchantresses, and actually like did really well. So like they were a big surprise in OQs, and that is part of the fun of OQs, right? It's a giant 64 team tournament. Anyone can sign up, and I'm curious to see who ends up emerging from that, because they're like we always get surprises. I know that's how I found Kryra. He did really well in an OQ split. I don't think his team made it, but like he played really well, and now he's a player where like when it comes to junglers, I think really, really highly of Kryra, and like,
yeah.
I mean, again, like him and Toasty were players where I if you want to like take a risk and like as even an LTA team, like I would actually say like roll the dice on these guys, right? Same with Cryogen. Okay. So yeah, we'll just see like who emerges from OQs.
Kryra also pumped off in like a lot of the tryouts and the off-season combines going on, but that's how you and I know him, OQs, Cubby. Yeah. That's not how the average viewer is going to get to know him. The average viewers get to know Kryra from him smacking around Spica in an NACL game. And that's why I'm excited about Doublelift's team. They could do the bare minimum, and it's still good for the league.
Agreed.
They could show up, do nothing, not talk about the games at all, maybe post like a tweet that we're going live, and it's going to be good for the region. Best case scenario, they're also rating the players that they respect and are, becoming fans of themselves. They're paying attention to the league. They're talking on their own streams about some of the players that they're playing against and helping, pass the torch and pass the baton to build up these other brands. But even the bare minimum is going to be good for the league.
Agreed.
It's sad but true, and I hope that they take it like pretty seriously, because I feel like the more seriously they take it, then like to your point, the better it is for everyone. So
I mean, I don't think these guys will.
Kryra the Evelyn guy? Yes, Evelyn.
All 5 of these guys are going to care if they're losing, but I don't know if that also means that they're like. I don't personally think that they are like gonna be working 12-hour things trying to like make this team get into the LTA and win, an MSI spot and all this kind of stuff. Like,
No, I mean, they still have good motivations though. Like if you're doing this for content, I mean, those Ratones, they get a nice bump whenever they're scrimming or competing compared to what they normally get, right?
Right.
So it's not like there aren't motivations for them.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I did just want to make sure that we talked about that. I think it's exciting. I think it's fun. I think it's good for the region. I think we've seen this happen over in Europe. I think there's a world where like this type of stuff ends up being kind of the future of the league or of global LoL esports in some way. Like if you told me 5 years from now, the world finals before you see Faker go up there at the age of 34 or something, face off against a team, you see some sort of fun Los Ratones double lift show match or something along those lines.
Look at the Red Bull events and the KC. Yeah.
I mean, like the Red Bull events, but I think Riot should be looking at everything that's happening right now and realizing that there is people miss this, and they've missed it for so long, and Riot stripped a lot of the heart and spirit out of what started this whole thing many, many years ago. And you are seeing it come back in things like the Cadral team, in things like this double lift team, etc. And there's got to be some future melding where it is not a situation where you just have teams fucking using a slot machine to see if they can pull in a bunch of random players that stay on the team for 6 months and then leave to see if they can get a world spot, and something that feels full like fake wrestling, where you just have a bunch of these players doing entertainment content in competition. And I think that is probably the future of esports, because it is like we spent many years with the biggest thing on streaming platforms being esports. Then esports withered as like the entertainment streamers have popped up with like OTK and Ludwig and all these guys. And I'm like, the true fusion should be something that feels like both and has elements of both. And I think that is like, we're seeing the beginning of phase 3 of entertainment gaming stuff with the Cadral streams and all that stuff. He was like number 2 on Twitch for the first week of February, like behind Kai Cenat, pretty close.
Dude, today he had double the LEC viewership co-streaming the games. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I have different thoughts and feelings about that one too. But, yeah. I mean, props to Cadral. I mean, that guy works his tail off and he's really talented. So he deserves what it is. I just think that, Riot should have given him the bag and they could have had all the numbers for themselves. But, Cadral thought bigger and he proved them wrong. So
they don't need it because they're just fucking copying and pasting his streaming numbers to their sponsors,
But they're still paying for their own broadcast. So that's one thing.
For how long? Anyway, thanks so much to everyone who called in tonight. Covey, do you want to give any shout outs, plugs here at the end?
Yeah, shout out to Kangas. My VOD reviews did not happen today. They will happen later on in the week, probably Wednesday, as I got a busy day tomorrow. I shout out to my university, Miami, Ohio, as I will not be streaming tomorrow because I'm popping in their scrims. They're undefeated right now, and I go see what's up and help them out as they're
Coach
trying to make
Cubby coming back. Let's go.
Nah, they got a coach. I'm just popping in. I offer to pop in for the day and see if I could help them out. But I'm excited though. There's one kid like he's a senior this year and he's finally starting at mid. And I tried him out as a freshman when I was coaching, so I'm really happy that he made it. So I'm excited to see Jack and yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Kangas, what do you want to shout out, plug? What's going on with you?
Well, I gotta shout out my University of Minnesota. I believe they're still in the running for CBLOL. They had a really good series against Bethany and crushed them. So shout out.
Oh, that's Minnesota. A big deal, actually. I don't know what that is. Team is like
Bethany's
these days,
really good, yeah.
But, yeah.
So shout out to the state of Minnesota. And also shout out to NZXT there for powering my gaming PC so I can play Civ 7.
Nice. For me, I will be at MagicCon this weekend in Chicago. If you are going, please say hi. We can try to play a Commander game or something. That should be really fun. I'm hosting. I don't think any Magic creators watch my this late into a Hotline League episode, but I am hosting a mixer for content creators because I don't know. Getting into the Magic space, I've been surprised that there's so little stuff for the creators there, because if you go to so many events, there's like all sorts of events in the evenings for creators to like meet each other, or mixers, or after parties and stuff. And I was like, there's nothing here, so I'm just gonna put down a guarantee on a bar minimum tab and hope that people actually spend the money, but then invite a bunch of people so that there's actually some sort of gathering for people to meet. So that's my fun little project this week, besides heading off to meet with Dragonsteel about some cool potential things in the future. Nothing that is definitive, but yeah, that's going to be my week. So thanks everybody. Watch LTA this weekend. I'll be tuning in from MagicCon. Fortunately not flying to Brazil, but you know, they should have just flown everybody back to the LA studio, because North American teams just going to be playing there. Either way, thanks everyone for watching. We'll catch you next week.